Oh, sorry. Hello. Hi. Okay, it's working. I promise you, I was here on time. I've never done a scheduled premiere before, so it wasn't connecting. But we're here now, continuing the cross-examination of Brian Albert, and the judge is like, oh man, if only I knew you only had a couple more questions, I wouldn't have done break when I did my break. It's like, didn't he tell you there was going to be a couple more questions? Whatever. Poor Mr. Brian Albert had to wait. He could have just left for the day, but he had to do the lunch and then come back, do a couple more questions, blah, 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 blah. All right, y'all. So let's continue the cross-examination of Brian Albert, and then we'll do a redirect, and then hopefully a new witness on the stand. Hi, Irene. Hi, Kiki. How are you doing today? Wait, I can't see you guys in my chat. Oh, I got to refresh it, I guess. All right, y'all. We ready? We ready for this? Let's do it.
I want to address a couple of quick things that we talked about a little bit earlier. The September 22nd, 2022 date. Recall that date?
Yes.
That's the date that you indicate that you believe you got rid of your phone or turned your phone in for an upgrade.
Yes.
Did you watch the proceedings that on this case, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, on September 22nd, 2022?
No.
You were not aware that that was the first date that I appeared on this case and it was nationally televised?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you aware that that hearing date of September 22nd, 2022 was a televised hearing?
Objection.
Sustained.
What did you know about the hearing date of September 22nd, 2022?
I didn't know anything about it.
Knew nothing about it?
No.
Okay. Let me ask a different question. This is going to dovetail into an earlier conversation you and I had concerning statement that you gave.
Can you guys type one in the chat for me really quick? I just want to make sure my chat's good.
To in June of 2023 to the other hearing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm fumbling the language a little bit, but you understand the hearing that I'm talking about.
Yes.
You had indicated a little bit earlier in my questioning that you did not recall saying something to the effect of, yeah, it's only possible that it was me who answered the phone. You remember saying that? That you didn't recall that?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach her?
Yes.
111. Okay, thank you. All right, we did a morning stream earlier. Now we're doing an afternoon stream. Do you guys eat lunch?
Mr. Albert, there's a highlighted portion of that transcript. If you just take a look at that, and when you're finished reviewing it, just look up at me and let me know.
Hello again. Hi. Irene, Nikki, Edward, Nicole, Dino, Kiki, Caitlyn, Irene.
Mr. Albert, did that refresh your recollection as to the colloquy that you had with someone questioning you about this issue in June of 2023?
Yes.
And in fact,
Dinner?
you testified as follows. Question, can you just but then you?
Objection, Your Honor, as far as the reading.
As far as what?
Reading from the transcript, he's asked him if his memory's refreshed.
All right, so go ahead and ask him a question. Don't read from the transcript.
Did you in fact say in answer to the question, if it's not your wife and it's not your dog, who else is it possible on earth to answer this phone?
Might have been Chloe.
Answer, yeah, it's only possible that it's me. Did you say that?
Yes.
Ring, ring, ring. Chloe's like, my parents are having sexy time right now. Call back later.
Just before the break, I was asking you about those, as you indicated, many phone calls that you traded between and among your family members and friends, including Brian Higgins.
I had pasta too.
Yes.
Were those many calls an effort to get your stories straight about how you were going to
Asked and answered?
what statements you were going to give to law enforcement and how you were going to testify if this case ever went to trial?
No, absolutely not.
Were those calls, or those many calls, an effort to coordinate narratives between you and your friends and your family?
No.
Were those many calls in any way discussing the fact of creating a story of mysterious butt dials?
Objection.
Sustained.
Everyone,
Yes.
My dog has changed my phone and changed videos on my phone, not unheard of. Change music, sure. Change videos. What do you mean?
Okay.
Oh, like
Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
stepped on it? Shiro steps on my iPad all the time and then fucks with my shit. All right, redirect. Mr. Lally. Come on, Mr. Lally. What you got for us?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You were asked some questions about the week prior to being at the waterfall. At some point, you were at the hillside, correct?
Also, is Lolly the only prosecutor working on this? Where are the rest of the team?
Yes.
You were there with friends and family, is that correct?
Yes.
You weren't specifically there with either Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant, correct?
No, I was not.
And same with respect to the waterfall on January 28th, you were there with friends and family, is that correct?
Yes.
You weren't specifically there with Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant, correct?
No, they came unrelated to anything I was doing.
And you were shown some video from the waterfall from January 28th in which you were speaking at a sort of section of the table, correct?
Yes.
And was the defendant the only person in that section of the table?
No.
There were other people around her, behind her, is that correct?
Yes, it looked like there were other people at the table as well as situated right behind where she was sitting.
And those other people around her, behind her, those are people that you knew far better on January 28th than the defendant?
Yes, those are my relatives and friends, and that's why I was at that location.
I feel like whenever he does redirect, can we start with something strong
You were
and
asking questions
hard-hitting?
about going over to Ms. McCabe's house later on in the afternoon of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Why did you go over there?
I went to Jen's house because she's my sister-in-law. She was going through an awful time that morning, as we all were. And I wanted to be there to comfort her if she needed anything. Because we're so close, I didn't want her to feel like this was too much for her to handle.
I want Jen McCabe to testify next.
Again, how long have you known Ms. McCabe?
I've known Jen since she was probably 6 or 7 years old. She's like a sister to me.
Now, at your home on the January 28th and the January 29th, when people came back after the waterfall, did you at any point in time go into the basement area of your home?
No,
Did Brian Higgins at any time go into the basement area of your home?
not that I know of.
Did you see anyone go into the basement area of your home during the time that you were there after coming home from the waterfall?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions about your dog, Chloe, in that she wasn't great with strangers. What exactly did you mean by that?
All I meant was that she wasn't overly affectionate with strangers. She was a heavy dog. Not everybody likes dogs. So if there's going to be people at the house that don't know the dog, they might not particularly want her around them.
They don't like the dog. They can't come over to my house.
Were you more concerned about the people in the house that didn't know Chloe? Or
I actually had one person come over to my house before, and she like hated dogs. It was so weird. I almost kicked her out. Like, get the fuck out of here. But it wasn't my friend. It was like my friend wanted a favor from me because she wanted the model, or they wanted the model to come into my apartment and do a photo shoot because we had like a nice what's it called, like view at that time. And then so she came in with her shoes in the house, and then she was like, "Oh, I don't like dogs." And I was like, how do you not like dogs? What? And it wasn't like she had a bad experience. She wasn't scared of them. She was just like, no, ew, they're just nothing to me.
or more concerned about Chloe herself?
The people in the house, never has the dog, to my knowledge, been aggressive to anybody except for the time that there was a fight between two dogs.
Now, you were shown in Exhibit 66 that was
Yeah, I dumped a guy for yelling at my bulldog. Yeah, you can get the fuck out of my house.
sort of a drawing of your house. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And had you ever seen that prior to today?
No.
And do you recall specifically within the drawing or the artist rendering of your house, there were certain lights on around the garage and the front door?
I did notice that, yes.
Hi,
Do you recall
Crystal.
whether or not those lights were on when you came
Yeah,
home?
right. Unless you're allergic or suffering from PTSD from a previous dog attack, get out of here. I don't trust people who hate animals, right? That's how I feel. Dennis's parents don't like dogs as well, and I'm like, that explains a lot. Hi,
The
lady.
waterfall on January 29th?
I don't recall, but oftentimes those lights are off, and sometimes the bulbs don't even work in them.
And when Ms. McCabe comes into your bedroom sometime after 6 a.m. on the 29th,
Yes.
that was following a day in which you woke up in New York City and went to a funeral, is that correct?
Yes, I went to a funeral that morning in New York.
And that was for a fallen police officer from the New York City Police Department?
Yes, a police officer in New York that had been murdered while on duty, and that was his funeral.
And did you know that
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, were you close to that police officer?
police officer whose funeral you attended?
Objection.
The objection sustained. Next question.
Oh, I want to know the
Now,
answer to
with
that.
reference to, you then drive all the way home from New York to Massachusetts, correct?
Yes.
And you went out to a couple of different places, had a couple drinks, correct?
Yes.
And then went back to your home and went to bed sometime around 2 a.m. or so?
Yes, after 2.
And so about how long had you been asleep from the time that you dozed off to the time that Ms. McCabe comes into your bedroom that morning?
Only a few hours, probably 3-4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours.
Now, in relation to waking up that morning, you testified that you did not go outside, correct?
Yes.
And why not?
Initially, when I woke up and I was told what was going on out front, I looked out my window and I saw some emergency vehicles. I did not see John at that time. I came downstairs with my wife, and she asked, where was John? And Jen said that he...
Sustained. Next question.
Wait, the wife came downstairs?
What was your understanding of where Mr. O'Keefe was when he came downstairs?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Lally.
In reference to when you came downstairs, what was your understanding of medically what was going on outside?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Was there any reason for you to go outside of your house at that time?
No, there was not. At that time, there was no victim out in front of my house. So there was no first aid for me to give.
Or so he
There
thought.
was nothing I could do.
You were asking questions about the sort of bulkhead in the back of your house, correct?
Yes.
Where is that bulkhead in relation to the bay windows of the kitchen that you were testifying about?
So the bulkhead door is directly under the bay windows in the kitchen. The bulkhead door opens up almost directly into the windows, obviously without hitting them, but it opens up into the front of the bay
Are bay windows kind of like the window that's over the sink type of thing?
windows.
What you saw as far as that video that was shown to you, that's not what the bulkhead looked like. That's not what the door looked like at that time on January 28th or 29th of 2022.
No, those are not the doors we had.
And as far as the bulkhead was concerned, when that bulkhead was opened around that time, what, if any, kind of noise would that bulkhead make?
A loud creaking, old rusty metal sound when you opened it.
Is that something that if it was open and you were in the kitchen area, you could hear?
Yes.
Now, in reference to that bulkhead, what, if any, security or what if was it open, was it locked? How was that left?
So the bulkhead door was shut and it was broken. So sometimes you could turn the metal thing to lock it, and sometimes it would be hard to do. But the wooden door that goes into the basement has a lock on the doorknob. That is a door that we keep locked because we don't use it.
Now, as far as
Oh, really? You had bulkhead doors? I had them when I was in MA, loud noise.
on the bulkhead, you were shown in that video a gate that opens up to the front yard area of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, other gates are located on the fence in your backyard?
So we also have a gate on the rear part of the fence. And there's also a gate on the opposite side of the house.
And the gate in the rear area of the fence, where does that lead to?
So
The
that leads to
railroad
some
tracks?
woods, and then eventually you'll hit some train tracks.
Now, with respect to your phone,
Yeah, why not hide his body out there? You know, dig a hole back there.
that was something that you had upgraded prior to any notification you received from the district attorney's office or anything in relation to preserving the phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, please. Let's tell us more about this phone.
Now, with respect to that, as far as the information contained within the phone, there are certain types of information, are you familiar with, being sort of backed up by the cloud?
Oh, wait, then I have a bay window then. Okay, I don't know. I just call it the Nook window. Some over the sink windows are bay windows. A bay window is a window that extends out of a wall of a house to make it sort of like a bay. Sometimes they go floor to ceiling. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, because I have like a little like window Nook thing that sticks out of my kitchen.
Yes.
Would that include calls?
It could.
Could that also include text?
Yes.
Could that include photos?
Yes.
Could that include contacts?
Yes.
And the information that you were shown as far as certain call logs or call records, as far as you know, was that generated after that September of 2022 date?
Yes.
Now, with respect to the
Okay, so
preservation,
iCloud
that was
data
in
has
regards
that?
to a motion the council had filed for your physical phone, correct?
Yes.
Are you also aware of a judge's order denying that repeatedly as far as them gaining access to your physical phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, it was denied on multiple occasions.
So was it ultimately denied at the very end? Because I did see the defense putting a motion requesting access to Brian Albert's phone, but I don't know if it was denied or not. But in that motion, they included a lot of stuff in there. Lots of accusations.
I'll strike the multiple occasions.
You were asked some questions about boxing, correct?
Yes.
And the boxing that you did, that was in relation to a group associated with the Boston Police Department, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the last time that you were involved in any kind of actual boxing match?
Close to 20 years ago.
Now, with respect to some of the training that you were talking about, with respect to the Boston Police Department, you were given some training as far as defensive tactics, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that something that is standard, that is sort of given and administered to every Boston police officer?
Yes, and within the academy, you go to the defensive tactics training.
And that would include John O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as your house, where you used to live, 34 Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or notice with reference to cell phone reception in that area of your home?
So oftentimes, using the phone within my house, it seemed like it was it's a slang term, the dead zone for the phone. The reception wasn't great.
Wi-Fi?
And is that something that occurred over the time that you lived there?
Yes.
Wi-Fi?
Now, with reference to the phone, and prior to the intimate moment that you shared with your wife sometime after 2 a.m., do you recall whether or not the phone screen was locked at that time? Were you checking that at that particular time?
I don't recall the exact timing, but I know it was opened sometimes and then it was closed, obviously, at some point, but I don't know the exact timing.
So the phone may not have been locked at the time that you began that situation with your wife.
It may not have been.
With reference to the call logs or phone records that you were shown, best of your memory, is that the entirety of the phone calls that you made around that time?
No, it looks like it's selective people.
If John was in the basement, dragged out the bulkhead door, he would have so many scratches, bruises all over the body. I want to know if there's any like scratches or rips or tears on his clothes that he was wearing.
Numbers.
And with respect to those conversations, if you recall, what, if anything, in general terms, were you discussing with either those people in the logs or other people in general?
In general, I'm sure there was some discussion about the awful thing that had taken place, and there may have been other calls unrelated as well.
Can I have one moment, John?
Yes.
Because like I mentioned before, I think would have been really helpful if Lolly would have went with a the expert, the one who does like the pathologist one, where he goes up there and talks about the autopsy report and describes John's injuries and then all that stuff, and then get to the rest of these witnesses.
On the early morning of January
get there
29,
soon.
2022, did John O'Keefe ever come into your house that night?
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do.
Were you ever even aware that John O'Keefe or the defendant were anywhere in the area of your house during that early morning of January 29?
I was not.
I have nothing further on.
That's it for a redirect? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Lolly just wants to keep it moving.
Cell phone reception not being good in your house. When did you and Mr. Riley talk about that cell phone reception issue?
The what?
Cell phone reception issue in your house.
It came up during one of the preps.
Which prep?
I don't remember which prep, probably the last one.
I thought you only had one prep with Mr. Riley.
Well, we had the prep before the grand jury, and then I had the prep for this trial.
Okay, so
So that's two.
you brought up the fact that you had bad cell phone reception in that preparation.
The conversation came up, yes.
Mr. Riley taking notes.
I don't recall if he was taking notes.
Was this recorded?
I don't believe so.
And where did you say this conversation took place?
So the prep was at the district attorney's office, which is in Canton.
This morning when I asked you, you said you couldn't quite remember where it took place.
You're right. I could.
Right. I know the pictures of John's like autopsies is out there, but it hasn't been in the courtroom yet. And I feel like this would be really, really helpful for the jury.
Remember this morning.
And I asked you, could it have been the DA's office, and now your memories are fresh?
Yes.
What refreshed your memory between this morning and now?
I was just thinking about it in my head and reminded myself that it was the DA's office. You caught me off guard when you would ask me. I didn't have it at the top of mind.
Did you talk to Mr. Lally over the lunch hour?
Briefly.
Bring up the fact that that's cell reception in your house over the lunch hour?
Just now, no.
What did you talk about over the lunch hour?
Just how much time I was going to have left on the stand. That was really about it.
So you and Mr. Riley talked about the fact that you've been on cross-examination for 2.5 hours, and the conversation consisted of, you probably got another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think he was going to lunch or doing something, so.
So you didn't talk about the substance of your testimony?
No.
He didn't tell you what questions he was going to ask you on redirect?
Maybe mentioned one thing he may ask me, but that was it.
What was that?
Just he was going to ask about what happened at the house in the morning. That's, some of the questions on redirect, that's all.
Meaning he was going to ask you the
Hi, Sarah. You're not too far behind. You got this.
question about whether or not John came in the house?
No, not necessarily. Just,
Ask you about whether or not you had bad cell reception in the house?
no.
What was he going to ask you?
He was going to ask about the morning of the incident, about coming downstairs and why I didn't go outside.
Did he tell you what he thought would be helpful for the Commonwealth?
Nope.
Did he tell you how he thought you should answer that question?
No.
He did ask you about a situation concerning the motion to preserve, correct?
No.
I'm sorry. He asked you on redirect about the motion.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And you mentioned that there was
Who do y'all think is going to be the next witness after Brian Albert?
a motion that had been denied for us to get, for the defense to get access to your physical phone, right?
Yes.
You're aware that that motion was denied in October of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You'd already gotten rid of your phone a month earlier, hadn't you?
Yes.
And the preservation order from the judge was still in place when you got rid of that phone, wasn't it?
No, I believe the phone was upgraded prior to the preservation order.
Oh, right. The day before.
Yes.
Right. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Albert, you are all set, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Oh,
Your
poor
next witness, Mr.
Albert.
Lally.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll call Brian Albert Jr. to the stand.
Okay.
Oh, his son. Oh my God, poor Mr. Albert. That could have been done before lunch.
Your Honor,
Okay.
with the court's permission, the papers that were left up there with the last witness, I don't think are marked as anything. I just returned them down.
Redirect, Matt. All right, now we have next witness.
You solemnly swear the honesty of the court and jury in the case now hearing should the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Thank you.
Wait, how old is he? Oh, he's young face, but the mustache definitely makes him look a bit older. Yeah, the mustache. All right, new witness, y'all. This is their son, Brian Albert Jr.
Hey, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
I mean, he's like, what, early 20s now, right? Early 20s?
Thank you, Your Honor.
They have a son and a daughter. I don't know, like I said, I think we should have went to pathologist before we got into the rest of the Albert family.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
My name is Brian Albert Jr., and it's Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
I live currently in Norwood, MA.
And how long have you lived in Norwood?
I believe since I think it's about a year, since last May.
And prior to moving to Norwood, where did you live before?
I lived in Canton,
And where specifically in Canada?
34 Fairview Road.
And how long was it, sir, that you lived at 34 Fairview?
I'm going to guess, but I'm going to say maybe about 10 years.
And how old are you now, sir?
I'm 25.
And with respect
25.
to both where you live in Norwood and where you live in Canton, if anyone did you live there?
Well, when I lived in Canton, I lived at one point with my 4 siblings, but then some of them moved out.
Oh, sorry. No, yeah. He was a 23-year-old at the time. It was Colin that was a 17/18-year-old. Okay, I keep mixing up him and Colin.
And then in Norwood now, it's basically just
Norwood.
me and my parents, and 2 of my siblings are at school. So they come home in the summer and stuff.
And by your parents, your father's name is Brian Albert as well, is that correct?
Yes.
And your mother's name is Nicole?
Yes.
Now,
Moving along, Lolly.
you work, sir?
Yeah, I do. I work in IT.
And how long have you been doing that?
That job will be a year, maybe a year in August, I believe.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to the time frame of January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that specific time frame?
Yes, I do.
And with the 28th and the 29th, do you know roughly what days of the week that was?
Maybe a Friday and a Saturday, I believe.
And with respect to 28th or the 29th, what, if any, significance do those dates have?
Yeah, so the 29th is my birthday. The 28th was the day before my birthday, obviously. So I had a few friends over for my birthday.
And do you recall how old you were turning on the 29th of 2022?
That was, what, 2 years ago? So I'd be 23? 23, I think? Yeah, 23.
Now, in the week leading up to that weekend, what, if any, plans did you have with respect to sort of the night before and the night of your birthday?
Yeah. So I was kind of up in the air. I didn't know if I wanted to go out. I'm kind of a homebody person. I like to stay at home. So I was kind of up in the air. So my plan was to have some of my friends over to my house. We would eat, have a couple of drinks, and then I would decide then if I wanted to go out locally in Canton or not. So that was my plan. And then a few days before, that's when we found out that the snowstorm was actually going to happen, because you know how they always say it's going to snow, and it never does. So then that kind of threw a wrench in it, but I was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. And so we went along with the plan.
And that particular evening of January 28th, that's at some point people came over your house, is that correct?
Yes.
And about what time was it that your friends first started coming over?
I would say my friends first arrived probably around 7:30 p.m.
And who were the first of your friend group that came to your house that night?
The first two were Sarah and Julie.
And just for the record, Sarah's last name is what?
Levinson.
And Julie's last name is?
Nagel.
Because there's two Julies.
And,
He also has an aunt named Julie, and then the aunt was the one that bought donuts for him for his birthday.
with respect to
Love me some
them
frozen
coming over
donuts.
to your house, was there anybody else from your household or your family or anybody else that was present when Sarah and Julie stopped by?
I believe when they first got there, my mom was still at the house. She hadn't left yet to go out where she was going.
Do you know where she was going that night?
I believe she was going to the Waterfall Bar and Grill.
You know who, if anyone, she was going there with?
Yes, she got picked up by my Aunt Julie.
Now, Ms. Levinson and Ms. Nagel, how long have you known them?
I've known them, I would say, since high school. I think I was a sophomore and they're a year older than me.
Hi, Clee. How are you doing today? Can lawyers ask you questions about conversations you had with your lawyers on the stand? The defense attorney, you're talking about the previous testimony? The previous defense attorney was trying to see if the witness was discussing his testimony with his lawyer, because you're not supposed to discuss your testimony with anyone on lunch breaks and all that stuff. So he was just trying to be a little tricky right there and see if the guy would say, like, yeah, I did discuss my testimony with my witness. Yeah, because you're not supposed to.
I mean, they were a junior, so probably a good 7, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. Well, in between there.
And when they came over your house, what was it that you did?
Well, we were just hanging out. I had a few more friends who were on their way. So
The feeling that I get, Nicole, is that the Albert family, they are, I mean, it's like a small town. So people have heard of the Albert family. People have heard of each other. I don't think the Albert family is like the Murdoch family in South Carolina, right? Murdoch family, I think way more prestigious. They have like lots of ties, you know, over like 100 years of being like the solicitor, whatever the term is, in South Carolina. And they're like very, very, very well known. It seems like in this case scenario, it's like, I think one of the Albert family might be a town's council. I think they were elected recently, owns a pizza shop, small town, people know each other. But to my understanding, it's not to the degree of the Murdoch family. Hey, Lila, how's it going today? But that's all I know. And I, haven't really done like a lot of super reading about this.
they came after. Probably around 8 o'clock, I would say, 8:15. They were there, and we were just all hanging out, listening to music. We ate some food. I think we played some card games. Just normal hangout stuff.
And over the course of this evening, did yourself and your guests, did you also have some alcohol?
No, yeah, people were drinking, yeah.
Recall, generally speaking, what people were drinking?
Mostly like seltzers, like White Claws or Trulies and stuff like that.
Now, you mentioned that some other friends came about a half hour or so after Julie and Sarah arrived. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who were they?
They are, do you want their full names or?
Please.
Okay. They are Catherine Duty, trying to think. Emily Fabiano,
Slender.
Courtney Alba, and I think that's it that I can recall as I sit here.
And with respect to those other friends, how did you know them? How long did you know them?
I knew everyone from school. We all went to high school together. So the other ones were in my grade. So we were closer friends because they were in my grade. So I've known them for a long time.
And just to be clear, when you say from school, you're talking about high school?
High school, yes.
You went to Canton High School, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Now,
Right? Maybe, right? And I do wonder, how often do murders happen in Canton? Maybe, because, I don't know. Remember the guy who was like, oh, I never processed a crime scene in the snow before? Maybe he meant like a murder crime scene in the snow in 30 years? I don't know.
with respect to having your friends over your house, was where sort of within the house were you all sort of hanging out?
We would all just kind of hang out probably, I would say, mostly in the dining room. The dining room and the kitchen were kind of like one big open space. So we would be like in the kitchen or the dining room. And sometimes I think we may have like walked into like the family room area, sat down for a little bit, but mostly it was just the dining room and the kitchen.
And the family room area, is that visible from the kitchen and dining room area?
There's a wall, but there is a doorway, a door frame. So you can't see all of the family room, but you can see a good amount of it, yeah.
And as far as each of your respective friends that you were testifying come over to your house that night, do you have any idea how they got there?
No, I don't know. None of them drove. I know that, so I would assume that they got dropped off by someone, but I don't know who.
So there wasn't like a pile of cars like out in front of your house at any point during the evening?
No, there wasn't.
Now,
Found this article right here. So Canton. This is Canton, Massachusetts. Is there only one Canton in Canton? Canton. It doesn't say. It just says Canton. I wonder if it's Canton. Canton Rep. Where is this located? Canton recorded 13 homicides, including 2 triple homicides in 2009. There were 8 in 2008. I don't think I've ever seen the city of Canton go 9 months without a homicide. But is this Massachusetts? I'll find out.
later on that evening, who, if anyone else, came by?
Oh, just kidding. This is Canton, Ohio. There's more than one Canton.
Well, my cousin Colin arrived at the house at some point. And then my mom and my dad and them came back from the waterfall back to the house at some point as well.
Now, with respect to your cousin Colin, his last name is Albert as well.
Yes.
How is he related to you?
He is my first cousin. He's my dad's brother's son.
And his father would be Christopher Albert, is that correct?
Yes.
He's older, younger?
Is Colin younger than me?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
About how old was Colin around this time?
Maybe 17, I think.
So was he in high school around this time?
I would assume so, yes.
And if you recall, how was it sort of that Colin came?
He's 25 years old now, but at the time he was turning 23 for his birthday.
Over to your house that night? Did he reach out to you at any point? Did you reach out to him?
Yeah, I don't exactly recall how he knew. I don't know how he knew that I was at my house, but at some point he did call me and said, "Oh, are you still at your house?" And I said yes. And he said, "Do you mind if I come by?" And I said, "No, of course you're welcome to come by."
And with regard to earlier at your house, when you indicated that your mother went out to the waterfall, she went out with Julie Albert, correct? And that's your aunt?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I haven't updated my thing yet. Let me update mine because I have mine's wrong. Brian Albert Jr. and direct examination. Sorry, I have it wrong.
I asked you about 3 different questions.
No, it's all right.
As
This
far
me.
as Colin is concerned, Julie is Colin's mother.
Yes.
Do you recall about what time it was that Colin came by the house?
I don't recall exactly. I would say maybe closer, maybe 10:45, 11 p.m.
And as far as the other people at the house, the women that you had over, did Colin know any of them that you knew of?
Yeah, Colin knew some of them just from being in the same town. And Colin's older brother is just 1 year older than me. So Colin's brother is in some of the grade of some of the girls, in the grade of some of the girls that were there. So that's how he knew them.
And just to be clear, Colin's older brother is also named Christopher Albert.
Yes.
What? Oh my God. Why do we have so many doubly names?
And now, when Colin came over to the house, as far as the things that you were describing before, as far as hanging out, is that essentially what continued after Colin's arrival?
How many of y'all in the chat have kids named after you?
Yeah, he was just another addition. We just were continuing to do the same stuff, hanging out.
Now, with respect to within the home, you've mentioned sort of the kitchen, the dining area, and the family room. Were there any other areas of the house that anybody went to during the course of the evening?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, there's a bathroom, but it's just off the kitchen. So I assume the bathroom. But that's really it. We didn't go anywhere else than that first floor area.
So mainly in the first floor, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see anybody at any time go down to the basement?
No.
Did you see anybody at any time go upstairs?
Not to my knowledge, no.
You mentioned that at some points, your parents and some people that were at the waterfall came to your house. Is that right?
Yes. So first, a group of my friends had left my house, and I think that was probably around. They were only there for a few minutes while Colin was there, so I would say probably around 11:10. A few select people left the house to go home. So at that point, it was just me, Colin, Julie Nagel, and Sarah Levinson at the house until my parents arrived.
And so Courtney, Catherine, and Emily would have left at some
Your best friend stole the girl name I picked out this 4th grade. What was the name?
points shortly after Colin arrived.
Yes.
And when your parents came home, if you recall, what was sort of the order of, do you recall about what time that was?
I would say that would be right around midnight, I would say, maybe 12:05, 12:10-ish in that area.
And just turning back to Colin for a second, do you recall, do you know how Colin came to be at your house?
Like how he was dropped, like if he was dropped off?
Yeah, yes. Did you know whether or not he drove there, was dropped off?
How he got there? How did he leave?
I know he didn't drive there, but I would assume he got dropped off. He didn't say how he got there, though.
Right, so we'll strike, you don't know how we got there.
Okay, yeah.
And as far as the order of people that arrived back at your home, who were the first people
Maybe
who
he meant to
arrived
say that
back at
he
your home from the waterfall?
The first people to arrive were
he didn't drive there, but he doesn't know who gave him a ride there, maybe?
my mom, my dad, my sister Caitlyn, and my dad's friend Brian Higgins.
And prior to that evening of January 28th, had you met Mr. Higgins before?
I don't recall ever meeting him. I could have met him in passing, but I don't ever formally remember meeting him, no.
Do you recall ever seeing him at your house at Fairview Road prior to that?
I don't think he'd ever been there that I have saw, no.
And as far as Colin was concerned, when your parents and your sister and Mr. Higgins arrived, when, in relation to that, when did Colin leave the house?
Colin was actually getting up and leaving as they were coming into the house.
And similar to, do you know how Colin left?
Wait, hold on. That's like a very specific name. And it's not just one name, it's like 2 names. She calls her Ali Rhea for short. It's not a coincidence. Maybe she thought she was the one who came up with it in 4th grade.
At your house, or how he,
Oh boy.
whether or not he drove or was picked up or anything?
Yeah, he was sitting at the table and I was actually sitting right next to him and he stood up and said, "I'm leaving, Allie's picking me up." And so I knew who Allie was because
Girlfriend?
she's my cousin.
And what is Allie's last name?
McCabe.
And she's your cousin as well, is that correct?
Yes.
She Colin Albert's cousin?
She's not Colin's cousin. No, she's my cousin on my mom's side.
And so Colin would be your cousin on your father's side?
Yes.
Were they dating?
And following your father, your mother, your sister, and Mr. Higgins' arrival at the home, where did they sort of congregate within the home?
In the same area that we were, in the dining room, in the kitchen area. My mom got home and I know she went right to cleaning because she likes to clean. So she was in the kitchen picking up. And yeah, we were all just in that one area.
And following their arrival back at the home, who, if anyone else, showed up at your home that particular
That would explain why one of the law enforcement, when they testified, they said they went to the kitchen and it was like really clean. It's like, it would be really clean after having a party. But, you know, I do know people who do clean after like a party, especially if it's like 2, 3 a.m. because you don't want to deal with it the next morning.
And then I would say maybe 10 minutes later, my auntie JJ, well, her name is Auntie Jen, but I call her JJ, and Uncle Matt arrived at the house.
Your Auntie JJ and your Uncle Matt, what is their last name?
McCabe.
And was that, their arrival, was that before or after Colin had left?
Colin had already left at that point, yes.
And so the alley that Colin was picked up by, what, if any, relationship does she have to your Auntie JJ and your Uncle Matt?
That's their daughter.
At least Lolly's being more clear.
Now-
Usually by now we get a bit lost with what he's
Throughout the
doing
course of the evening, well, let me ask you this, as far
in the
as,
timeline.
when was it that the last person who didn't live at your house on Fairview Road, when was it that the last person left?
The last, I wouldn't know I couldn't tell you the time. Well, the last people to leave were Auntie JJ, Uncle Matt, Sarah, and Julie. I don't know exactly what time that would be. I can't even guess. I don't know.
And you mentioned your sister, Caitlyn, is that correct?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was just thinking of her as my sister, like sibling. So she didn't live in the house, so she was the last person to leave.
And prior to her leaving is when your Auntie JJ, Uncle Matt, and...
Yes, yeah.
So with respect to after your Aunt JJ and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived at the house, who, if anyone else, came by the house that you were aware of?
No one.
Well, let me ask it this way. As far as anybody else following them actually physically come into the house?
No one else came into the house after them, no.
And at some point,
No
were you
Karen, no John?
were you made aware of someone out in front of you?
I saw someone outside of the house, yes, a car.
And what was it that sort of drew your attention to the front area of the house?
Yeah, so at some point, my friend Julie stood up and said, "Oh, my brother's outside." Her brother was there to pick her up. And someone made a comment saying, "Oh, no."
Yeah, who was the someone?
Not what they said, what happened as a result.
Okay. She went outside to talk to her brother. And so I looked out the window at that point, and she was outside talking to her brother. So his truck was there, and I saw another car there as well.
And with respect to your friend Julie Nagel, her brother, what is his name?
His name's Ryan Nagel.
I think the defense said Ryan was the one who said he saw Karen Reed sitting in the car by herself with no John O'Keefe, and the taillight looked fine. I don't know. That's what the defense said. We'll wait to see until he testifies.
And if you recall the time that Julie gets up and goes outside to talk to her brother, where were you within the house?
I was still sitting at the dining room table.
And with regard to that area of the dining room table, how was it that you were able to see out in front of the house?
There's two windows there. So I just turned around and looked through the blinds.
And when you looked through the blinds, what is it that you saw out in front of your house at that time?
Yeah, so I saw a truck, which was Julie Nagel's brother's truck, I believe. And that was a little ways, almost like in front of the driveway of the house. And then a little ways in front of it, there was another car that I hadn't recognized before. It was a dark SUV-ish, and that's all I knew about it and could see about it.
That Karen's
Now,
car?
similar to yourself, who, if anyone else from sort of the group of people, either in the kitchen or in the house, could you observe near a window or a door that was looking out on that?
I believe my Uncle Matt McCabe noticed the car outside as well.
And with respect to the dark SUV that you didn't recognize and what you thought was Julie Nagel's brother Ryan's truck, was there anything in between the truck and the dark SUV that you saw outside?
Not to my knowledge, I didn't see anything, no.
And as far as the weather, when you looked outside, what, if anything, did you know about the weather?
It was definitely snowing. I wouldn't know how many inches, but I would say an inch or two of snow at that point.
I hope you're not friends with her anymore.
Out in front of your house, those two vehicles, do you recall which direction they were facing?
Yeah, they were both facing, going up Fairview towards Cedar Crest. So whatever this is, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you probably in a better way. As far as what was facing towards your house, was that the driver's side or the passenger side of each of the vehicles?
That would have been the passenger side.
And that's with respect to both vehicles, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, at any point in time during the time that these vehicles were out in front of your house, do you recall hearing anything or any sort of noises coming from the front of your house that drew your attention?
No, I didn't hear anything, no.
And as far as looking out the windows and seeing these vehicles in front of your house, how many times did you look out?
I believe I looked at that one time, and then I think I looked out one more time after that.
And as far as your friend Julie, if you know, about how long was she out in front of your house at that time?
I would say not more than 5 minutes, more likely about 3 or 4 minutes she was outside.
And when did you see her outside in relation to the truck as well?
Yeah, I saw her at the passenger door of the truck.
Now, that vehicle that you observed that you didn't recognize, the darker black SUV, was that vehicle in one place or more than one place during the times that you looked out the window and saw
Yeah, so the first time I looked, I would say it was closer towards the mailbox, maybe a little bit in front of the mailbox. And then the second time, the last time I looked out the window, it had moved further down, closer to, I'll say, the flagpole. So closer that way. It went down that way, towards the flagpole.
So closer to the
But he said that the passenger side was facing the house?
there's an area in the front of your yard where there's flagpoles, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because the passenger side was facing the house. That means that Karen was facing, let's say she was facing this way towards the flagpole. And so initially they were at the mailbox, and then she inched up forward, or not inched up because it's like more than inches, but she drove it forward to where the flagpole was. Okay.
Now, as far as when it moved, as far as the weather and the snow was concerned, could you see anything in relation to the roadway and behind the SUV as it, once it had moved from that initial position to the following position by the flagpole?
Yeah, I had noticed just some tracks in the snow, indicating that the car had moved up.
Now, your friend Julie, did she take that ride home with her brother Ryan at that time?
No, she came back in the house.
And as far as your friends Julie and Sarah that were still at the house when people from the waterfall came home, do you know how they happened to go home on that particular evening?
Yes, my aunt JJ McCabe and Matt McCabe drove them home.
Do you have any idea about what time that was?
No, I'm not really. I'd be guessing. I would say maybe one something, maybe.
Yeah, he said he didn't know before.
Now, with respect to your sister, Caitlyn, who you indicated was the last person to leave the home that evening, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you awake or downstairs at the time she left?
I don't know if I was downstairs when she actually left, but I was down there for a minute when she was the last one present at the house with my mom.
And do you know how she was leaving the house that night or how she was getting home?
Yeah, I believe her boyfriend was picking her up.
What's her boyfriend's name?
Tristan Morris.
Sir, if I could turn your attention to the following morning. At some point you go to bed. Do you know about what time it was that you went to bed?
I would say, I don't know, late 1, early 2 o'clock in the morning.
And your bedroom is in the second floor of the house, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And with respect to, how many bedrooms are up on the top floor? Or what?
3, 4?
4, I believe.
And with respect to your bedroom, where was that in relation to the layout of the house?
My bedroom would have been the middle back of the house. So I had 2 windows, but they were in the backyard of the house. So the middle, but the back side.
So the 2 windows that from your bedroom face the backyard area?
Yes.
Now, at any point in time after you went up to your room, same question as before, were there any noises or anything that drew your attention outside of the home at any point prior to you waking up?
No, I didn't hear anything.
And if you know about what time was it that you woke up later on that morning, the 29th?
I can't recall the exact time. I'd say maybe, I know previous testimony I may have said earlier, but I don't believe it was that early. I would say 7:30, 8 a.m.
What was it that woke you up that morning?
My dad had knocked on my door.
And without anything specifically that you guys talked about, following that conversation, where did you go?
I just threw on some clothes and I went downstairs into the main first floor of the house.
When you came downstairs into the main first floor area of the house, who, if anyone, did you see?
Yeah, so when I went down there, it was my mom, my dad, my auntie Jen, and my uncle Matt.
And about how long were you down in that area of the home?
I would say the first time I went down there, I would say I was down there for maybe 15 minutes or so.
You said the first time you went down, were there subsequent times after that?
Well, yes, I went back up into my room after I was down there the first time, and then I came back downstairs. And at that point, there was no one there besides me and my parents.
And that second or subsequent time that you came downstairs that morning to know about how long it was after the first time?
I would say maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
Now, with respect to your birthday, as far as
Donuts?
what, if any, sort of ritual or thing do you have with regard to your Aunt Julie?
Oh, yes. So my aunt likes to get me donuts. It started, I don't even know, probably when I was like in middle school. Because I used to really like donuts. So every birthday she would give me 6 donuts in a box and a card. And that was just our ritual. She would bring it over every day, every time it was my birthday.
And did you get those as far as the donuts and the card and everything at some point on that particular morning?
Yes, I believe that when I went downstairs the first time, the donuts and the card were there already, so I had known that she had come by and dropped them off for me.
Did you physically actually see your Aunt Julie on that particular morning?
No, I didn't see her then.
Was one of the cars in the driveway, was it his car? Do you normally leave your car unlocked in the driveway for your aunts to leave donut?
May I approach?
Yes.
Perhaps I just ask you to look at those yourself. And then
Okay.
cover it.
Okay. Yes, this is,
Taking those photographs, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what the house looked like around that time?
yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Call multiple seats to introduce you.
Okay.
Up on the screen, is that what you have before you? As I believe it should be Exhibit 71, probably.
Yes, that's the same.
And again, just for the record, you recognize what's up on the screen now?
Yes, I do.
Now, before I get into the photograph, there is one question that I need to ask as far as with respect to the sort of tenor and demeanor of that evening. How would you describe sort of from when your friends were there to the time that
It's a cute little window right there.
the folks came back from the waterfall?
Oh, here's the side door.
How was sort of the mood within that?
Cheerful, fun. Everyone was having a great time.
Any fights, any arguing, any tension, anything else that you noted of note with regard to that?
No, not at all.
And I believe, sir, there should be a laser pointer on the desk there in front of you. Just push the button on top.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question about it with respect to pictures.
Okay.
Now, with regard to the front area of your house, at 34 Fairview Road when you live there, there's basically two doors on the front of the house, correct?
Yes.
And if you could just use that laser pointer and direct the jury's attention to where in the photograph you observe each of those two.
Okay. So this would be the first door right here, and this is the second door.
And
Oh my
the
God, why is
first
it
door
jiggling so
further
much?
away from the driveway, is that sort of the front door area of the home?
Yes, that's the front door.
And the other door, where does that lead?
The side door leads just right into the family room.
And as far as around this time, January, or on this evening, if you recall, where were people sort of coming in and going out of their house?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you specifically. I think some people use both doors.
And what we're calling sort of the front door area, actually, I'm sorry, that's sort of one closer to the garage leads into the living room, is that correct?
Yes.
And so the front door further away from the garage, where does that lead?
That's like a foyer area, and then if you take a right, it leads you to the dining room, kitchen, and then you keep going into the family room.
Now, if you don't take a right and go into the kitchen and the dining room, and then sort of into the family room, you just sort of go straight, where does that lead?
Well, you can't really go straight. If you walk in a little ways to the left, there's a set of stairs that go upstairs, and you can go straight a little bit, and then to your left again, there's stairs that go downstairs into the basement.
Now, in
Yeah,
addition
this house
to
is
you and your mother and
huge.
your father, around the time of January 2022, did you have a pet?
Huge backyard space too. I'm like, oh God, all that space.
Well,
Love it.
Yeah, we had a dog, Chloe.
what was that? The dog named Chloe?
Yes.
But how long at that point had you had Chloe?
We had her for a few years. I don't know exactly how many years, but a few years.
Now, on that night, specifically January 28th leading into the 29th.
Yeah, it's a very generic house.
Letting Chloe out to use the bathroom or anything like that?
Yeah, sorry. So the dog was actually upstairs in my parents' bedroom. She likes to sleep up there and stay up there. So she was upstairs when my friends were downstairs. And at one point, after my dad came home,
Hey, he refers to Chloe as she, not it.
it was asked if someone let the dog out. And I said, sorry, I forgot, because it was my responsibility, because I was the only one home. So he went upstairs to get the dog, got the dog, brought her downstairs, let her outside.
And so when someone would let Chloe outside around this time, so can you describe that process as far as would it be a leash or just let her out? Or how?
Yes, the Home Alone house. Yes.
Yeah, so we had a fenced-in backyard, so we just kind of let her through the back door and open the door, and she was able to run around out back.
Whoever let her out, would they typically sort of stay?
There must have a lot of dog shit in the backyard. I wonder if they if they pick it up. I don't know. Having your dog shit in the backyard, then what if you actually step on it?
Back door?
Yeah, we stay around the kitchen area, yeah.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next photo up on the screen, 2593.
Yes.
Now, if you could, with regards to this photograph, I remember mentioning something about a flagpole in the area of the front yard, is that correct?
Yeah,
Right here.
Using that laser pointer, you could direct the jury's attention where that is.
right here.
Now, with respect to this photograph that's up on the screen right now, his Nagel's brother Ryan, where was, if you could direct the jury's attention to where it was about to observe that?
He would have been more this way, so the photo doesn't show you all, but he would have been more in front of the driveway over here.
And that first time that you looked out the window, where was the dark SUV?
I believe that was right around the mailbox area, right about right here.
And then again, if you could direct your attention to the second time that you looked.
How would Ryan Nagel be able to see if John O'Keefe was in the car or not? Unless when you're driving past, you're like really turning your neck to look, right?
Without the SUV had moved, where had it moved?
It was more down this way on the side of the road.
Now, if you could, as far as the windows that you're talking about in the kitchen area that you were looking out of, you see those in this photograph as well?
Yes, I do.
If you could direct your attention to where you see those.
Those are about right. Those two right there.
Oh my god, my stomach is so full.
The last photograph on that set.
There's a fire hydrant.
You have for you now is the 7th grade.
Yes.
And again, this is another photograph of the front area of your home, taken around the time of January 2020, correct?
Yes.
And as far as the flagpole in this particular area, that's off the sort of the left center of the screen, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in between the time that you saw that dark SUV that you didn't really recognize in the area of the mailbox and then further down, did you see it at any other points moving along?
No, I just caught it as it had already moved. By the time I looked out the window, I noticed that it had moved up.
And facing the same direction, is that correct?
Yes.
Same passenger side door that was facing your house?
Yeah.
And as far as the dark SUV was concerned, at any point in time did you look out and not see the dark SUV?
No, I didn't look out the window again.
So for the rest of the evening, you didn't look out the window?
No.
Now, in reference to the time that expired between the time that you saw it in the area mailbox and the time that you saw it over by the flagpole, do you have any idea how long period of time that was?
I would say probably within a couple minutes. It wasn't a long period of time that I looked out the window.
And as far as you know, your friend Julie, who had gone out to the pickup truck to talk to her brother Ryan, was she still outside around the time that you looked out the second time?
She could have been. I'm not sure if she was at that point, but she could have been.
And Ms. Gilman, you can take that. I have just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay.
With regard to that morning when you woke up, your father was at your door.
Yes.
As far as from what you could see of his person, what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe on his person at that time?
On my father?
Yes.
Nothing.
Now, at that time,
Mr.
January
Lawley.
28th and January 29th, 2022, did you know anybody by the name John O'Keefe?
I knew of the name, but I didn't know him personally, no.
And when you say you knew of the name or you knew of him, how did you know?
I knew he was friendly with my auntie JJ, Jan McCabe, and his niece was friendly with my cousin Jen's daughter.
And as far as your cousins, as far as Miss McCabe's daughters, what if any sort of relationship did you have with them, specific to them, beyond sort of your other cousins?
Oh yeah. So for a while, I think when I was in college or maybe the end of high school, I would help out because there was 4 girls, so they always had like multiple sports going on and stuff. So I would drive them to and from practices or be there after school if JJ had to be somewhere. So I spent a good amount of time with them and basically babysitting, but more just driving around and stuff like that.
That's nice.
Through them, is that how you came to know Mr. O'Keefe's niece, Kaylee?
Yes.
And you gave her rides to places as well?
Yeah, occasionally when she would come back to the house after school, I'd drive her to CCD or whatever.
And had you ever met, to your recollection, John O'Keefe or anybody by the name of Karen Reed prior to January 28th?
I don't know. I don't know what John's family thinks. I don't know. I haven't heard any interviews from them. There might be some. I don't know. No idea.
John O'Keefe, no. I mean, he could have came into the house once when I was there at my aunt JJ's house, and we could have said hi, but I don't.
I couldn't get a good read during opening statements. I couldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell.
I remember formally meeting him, and I never met Karen Reed either.
And on that evening, again, January 28th, or the early.
Probably need spellings of
Yes.
the.
Yeah, we do.
What happened?
I don't know if I'm going to be the best speller, but I'll try.
Wait, what the? What happened? Okay, so we're in redirect now.
All right.
I didn't touch anything. I swear it wasn't me.
The first one's correct. You're welcome.
So cross-examination?
Thank you, Ms. Little.
Thank you. Mr. Albert, the
Yay! We moved through that pretty quickly. Yes, 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 yes.
first time you ever spoke with anyone from the Massachusetts State Police, the Canton Police Department, or the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office was on July 6, 2023, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
That's a full 18 months after Mr. O'Keefe.
The first time? What? Is he gonna remember anything? 18 months later?
Step, correct?
Yes.
Who was present for that?
I spoke with 2 troopers, I believe,
Proctor?
and my lawyer.
Trooper Proctor was there?
Yes.
And this interview actually took place at your family's defense attorney's office, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection system.
This interview took place at your attorney's office, correct?
Yes.
Your sister Caitlyn Albert was also present, correct?
She was there for some time, but she wasn't when I was interviewing. She wasn't in the room with me. No.
And that was also the first time they had spoken with your sister as well about these events, correct?
Objection.
System.
My stomach hurts. I
And to
think I
be
ate too
clear,
much.
the Massachusetts State Police only interviewed you after you were called to testify before a grand jury
Objection.
separate proceeding, correct?
The objection system.
Sustained?
I want to direct your attention to your testimony regarding your cousin, Colin Albert. You testified today that Colin Albert called you to come to the house, correct?
I believe so. He did. Yeah.
Do you recall some prior testimony in which you said that you all had exchanged Snapchats about what you were doing that night in the house?
No, I don't believe I said that. I said for him to know that I was at the house, he could have seen a Snapchat that I had sent, but he didn't ask me on Snapchat if he can come over. I said more of that he had could have seen a Snapchat saying that we were at my house. That's how he knew, because I didn't know how he knew that we were there.
You and your cousins frequently communicate on Snapchat,
Call him
correct?
the Snapchat stalker.
Occasionally here and there.
You actually have a cousin group chat on Snapchat, don't you?
Yeah, we do. An Albert cousin group chat.
Who else is on that Snapchat?
There's all my cousins, a lot of us, a good amount of my cousins.
Would that include you,
Yep.
Colin Albert,
Yep.
Allie McCabe?
No, she's not an Albert.
Do you have a group chat in which Allie McCabe is a member?
I believe we have cousins on my mom's.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. People do still use Snapchat. And then there are celebrities or influencers getting these deals with Snapchat. It's like good monies in order to use Snapchat and get people to watch their snaps and stuff like that.
Side group chat, yes. But she wouldn't be in that group chat with Colin. No.
I uninstalled that a long time ago.
And do you still have any of the messages you exchanged with your cousin on January 28th?
I don't know. Can you rephrase the question?
Do you have any of those Snapchat messages or other messages that you exchanged with your cousin Colin Albert on January 28th?
No, I'm not even sure if there was any messages. Not to my knowledge, I don't know.
Next.
One in chat if you guys still use Snapchat. 2 in chat if you're like, nope. 3 if you're like, what's a Snapchat?
Mr. Albert, you testified that Colin arrived around 10:45 or 11 p.m., correct?
Today? I said that? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Who else was at the house when the clock struck sort of midnight as it became your birthday?
When it hit my birthday, it was just Colin, Julie, Nagel, and Sarah Levinson.
Was there any sort of celebration for your birthday when the clock struck midnight?
No.
What were you guys doing?
We were just sitting there.
Wait,
probably
what's
happy
Antius?
birthdays were exchanged, but it was nothing crazy. I'm not.
What do you all use Snapchat for? Do you guys use it to just view other people's snaps or do you actually like use it to talk to your friends?
A big birthday person like that.
And where in the house were you guys at that point?
In the dining room area.
You testified that your parents and Brian Higgins arrived shortly after midnight. Of your
Some
sister,
threes?
correct?
Yeah, I believe I said around 12:05, 12:10 in that area.
Describe what happened when they came into the house that night.
They all just walked in the door, and at that point, my cousin Colin was standing up to leave. They passed each other, said hi, and that was it.
Initially, I was like, how did he remember 12:05, 12:10? That seems a little specific, but it could make sense because maybe they were countdowning to his birthday, like to midnight. And then after they did a countdown to midnight, his birthday, minutes after that was when the rest of the people arrived.
Mr. Albert, you never actually observed Colin leave in a vehicle from 34 Fairview, correct?
No, I didn't see with my eyes, no.
In fact, you said you only looked out the window 2 times that night, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Use a lot for cheating. Nowadays, there's a lot of messaging apps out there that has like vanish mode or like incognito mode. So not only on Snapchat, you do that on like I think Facebook, I think Instagram. Yeah. And I'm sure they have dedicated apps for that too as well, where it's like you can hide the app and there's like ways to trigger it so it won't show on your phone.
Upstairs to get Chloe to take her out.
Well, that would have been like as soon as he got home, so around like a little after 12.
So would that have been
Poor
before
Chloe.
or after Colin sort of walked towards the door?
Colin had already left at that point.
Where did your dad go?
He went upstairs into his bedroom where Chloe was there, brought her downstairs and went to the back door and let her out.
And you were asked by Mr. Lally if your father kind of stands by the door and waits for Chloe before he lets her in.
Yeah.
But you testified that he was just generally in the kitchen area, correct?
Yeah, the kitchen is by the back door.
But he's not standing by the door waiting for her. She's an off-leash dog. She can go out, do her business, and you can open the door sometime later, correct?
Objection.
Can you answer that? Is that correct?
Could you say it again, please?
Your father wasn't standing by the door staring at Chloe the entire time that she was outside, correct?
No, I would not the whole time, no.
You testified earlier that Julie Nagel went outside to speak with her brother to indicate that she no longer needed the ride. Do you recall that testimony?
I'm not sure if I said that exactly, but yeah.
Can you describe sort of what you saw the first time you looked out the window?
I just saw a little in front of the driveway a little bit. I saw a truck. I saw my friend Julie at the passenger door. I suppose talking to the people in the truck. And a little ways up, I saw another dark SUV that I wasn't aware of.
And so you'd agree that there was nothing obstructing the view between the truck and the dark SUV, correct?
Well, not from my vantage point, no.
And the second time you looked out the window, the only difference you saw was that Ms. Reed's vehicle had pulled up, correct?
Well, I didn't know it was Miss Reed's vehicle, but the car that was there had moved up, yes.
And the truck was no longer there, correct?
The second time I looked out the window? That I'm not sure of.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at your testimony
Sure.
from
Was your friend's
July
brother
6th,
truck
2020.
there?
or sorry, May 18th, 2023? Refresh. So what you testified to
Sure, yes.
on May 18th, 2023?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you said that the second time you looked out, you saw that there was a black SUV that had pulled forward,
Yes.
but the truck was no longer there?
Sure, it seems like I said that then, yes.
Judge is looking at her watch. Is it another break time?
You also testified earlier that you saw tire tracks in the snow, correct?
Yep.
Where were those tracks?
Just along the side towards the driveway along this way, going up towards the flagpole.
And you viewed those tracks kind of leading up towards the flagpole, correct?
Yes.
So you'd agree that the visibility and lighting in front of the house was good enough that you were able to see tire tracks in the snow, correct?
Sure.
Yeah, I was
But
wondering
you
about
did
that.
not see a 220-pound man lying in the snow in your front yard, did you?
Objection.
Is that something that you saw, sir?
No, I didn't see that.
Who was in the house the
Is it a Scrabble game behind the judge? I see some books.
second time that you looked out the window?
It would have been my mom, my dad, Brian Higgins, my sister, Julie, Sarah, Uncle Matt.
Mr. Albert, you testified on May 18th, 2023 in another grand jury, and you said, quote, "I'm not sure if Brian Higgins was still there. I know he left at some point." Do you recall that testimony?
Yeah, I know he left my house at some point. I just don't know exactly when it was.
You were asked specifically at the time that you looked out the window who was there, and you said, "I'm not sure if Brian Higgins was there."
Yeah.
Isn't that correct?
Okay, if I said that, yes, because I was not sure. I'm still not sure that if he was there or not.
So you're not sure whether Brian Higgins was there when you looked out the window, correct?
No. I'm not sure.
You have no independent recollection as you sit here today where Mr. Higgins was when you looked out the window, correct?
No.
You also didn't recall Mr. Higgins ever saying goodbye to you or your group, correct?
I believe that's true, yeah.
In fact, you actually testified before another grand jury on May 18th, 2023, that at some point Mr. Higgins just wasn't there anymore. I must have gone to the bathroom or something. I came back and I said, "Where did Higgins go?" And they said he left, correct?
Sure, yes.
You also testified before that grand jury.
Objection, Your Honor.
So, yeah, I'm going to see it, Tybert, if you could bring that, please.
Is it because she's reading the testimonies? All right, we're caught up. We're caught up. I hope we get to the next witness today. Next witness. I wonder if it's going to be Caitlyn next. Because then, if Caitlyn's coming up next, then maybe we could see the 4 pictures where the fence was like, here are some pictures of you and
When did your father leave in relation
the
to Brian
paramedic.
Higgins?
Tell us
Leave,
more.
you mean like go upstairs, go to bed, or?
Leave your view.
He would have left after Brian Higgins had gone.
Yeah, she does have a little bit
Mr.
of vocal fry.
Albert.
A little bit. Yeah.
Isn't it true that you weren't quite so sure about that when you testified on May 18th, 2023?
I don't know. You would have to show me.
Is it
Do you
considered
have a
vocal fry? I
specific
don't know.
recollection of your father leaving
I
after
feel like her voice isn't really like steady. It's kind of like it kind of like undulates a bit.
Mr. Higgins was gone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went upstairs after Brian Higgins left.
Is that a Sprite I see in the background? Yuck. Disgusting. Sadie? I don't know who that looks
Mr.
like or
Albert.
how she looks like.
I'd like
Someone
to show
said
you
she looks like
my
AOC
friend.
earlier. What is that?
I could direct your attention to
Right here? Okay, all right. Mm-hmm.
Or what are we
Mr.
asking?
Albert, isn't it true that you told the grand jury, "I'm pretty sure Mr. Higgins left first before my dad went upstairs because he wouldn't have left if his friend was still there"?
Yes, I just said that here as well.
You
That
don't
makes
have any
sense.
specific recollection as you sit here today where your father was or where Mr. Higgins was when you looked out the window that night,
No.
correct?
No, that's not true. I know that my father was in the room with us. I'm saying I don't know when Brian Higgins left the house. And when Brian Higgins left the house, then my father went upstairs into his bedroom.
I'm familiar with the Manson family. I just don't know what Sadie looks
What you
like.
actually said was, quote, "I'm pretty sure Mr. Higgins left first before my dad went upstairs because he wouldn't have left if his friend was still there."
Yeah, that
correct?
makes
I
sense.
see what you're saying. Yes, but I still say that my dad wouldn't have went upstairs until Brian Higgins left the house.
Right, and that's based on an assumption, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Because you weren't interviewed about this case until 18 months later, correct?
Yeah.
You did not personally observe your father go upstairs, correct?
No, I did. I watched him go up the stairs. I was in the kitchen. You can see the stairs right there.
Your testimony is you can see individuals walk upstairs in your house?
Depending on,
Kitchen?
yes, the dining room, from the dining room I meant.
There's actually a wall that kind of blocks the dining room to the stairs, correct?
Not if you're sitting at the 2 chairs with your back to the windows. If I was sitting in the chair right here, the stairs would be right here. I could easily see. It's through the doorway.
But as you sit here today, you don't know what time that happened, correct?
No, I don't know the time, no.
Man, that
Mr.
microphone
Albert, I'd
really
like to
picks
direct
up
your attention to the morning of January.
a lot of things.
Sure.
Can you describe sort of how you woke up that morning?
My dad just knocked on my door, and I woke up and opened the door.
You didn't hear any dog barking?
No,
You didn't see any emergency vehicles?
no,
Didn't hear any ambulances?
no,
Didn't hear any screaming outside?
no.
What did you do once you woke up?
I went downstairs.
Did you ever look out the window?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at your grand jury testimony? from
Sure,
May 18th,
sure.
2023?
Thank you.
I wonder if the ambulance came down blaring.
Page or something.
Because I know law enforcement, there was one that mentioned that it was a quiet neighborhood. There's no need to have your sirens on 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. But I wonder if paramedics had the sirens on for the ambulance, because that shit could be really loud.
Okay.
But I could also see them not like blaring their sirens if it's like, I don't know, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning and there's no cars on the road. But maybe you should because there's
Is
bad
your
visibility.
recollection
I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
Why didn't you look out the window that morning?
Well, I say here that I just would give me anxiety to look out the window.
Is there a reason that you didn't want to look outside?
I'm just an anxious person, and I got overwhelmed. I think most people would be overwhelmed in that situation.
Did you say that this was kind of a new thing for you, for cops and police to be at the house?
Yeah, that's never happened before. I've never had cops at or near my house.
And it made you overwhelmed, correct?
Yeah, I get overwhelmed easy, so.
Mr. Albert, how many times did you discuss this case with members of your family before you spoke to the Massachusetts State Police on May 18th, 2023?
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a great question for the defense or the prosecution to ask, like, hey, when you guys were driving down the ambulance, were you guys blaring your sirens? And if it's no, that's good for the state. If it's yes, that's good for the defense.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know how many times.
Hundreds?
We talk about it pretty decent. I mean, considering, yeah.
What members of your family have you discussed this case with?
My parents, my sister, occasionally my aunt, JJ, and Uncle Matt.
Would you say it's been hundreds of conversations?
Well, I guess you can, you'd have to split it up and quantify what conversations were about the actual case and what conversations have been the harassment we've faced since then.
And all of these discussions took place with you and members of your family prior to your interview with the Massachusetts State Police, correct?
And I wonder, when did the harassment begin?
And no, we've talked since then.
Continue to speak with them about this case
Not,
since your interview.
Oh, God,
I don't know what you mean by this case. This case meaning the actual case at hand, or just the case about the harassment we faced?
I'm talking about what happened on January 28th and January 29th.
But there's really nothing to talk about those specifics, no, because we have nothing to say about that. We weren't part of it.
Mr. Albert, you looked out the window multiple times on January 29th, correct?
Twice, I think I said.
You never heard any sort of commotion outside.
No,
You never heard screaming, yelling, or the screech of brakes in the front yard.
no,
You never saw a 220-pound man in dark clothes in the white snow on your front lawn.
no,
But you did see those tire tracks.
I did.
No further questions.
I mean, John O'Keefe was, I think his shirt was it was like mostly gray, right? It was like light gray. And then I think the sleeves were the ones that were like of a darker color.
Hey, Mr. Lally.
What was he wearing,
No
jeans?
redirect, Your Honor.
Ah,
No redirect.
next witness.
All set?
Hi, Mr. Lally. We're all set, sir.
We're moving. Next witness, next witness. Who do we have? Caitlyn? Jen McCabe? Carrie Roberts?
Right. Lally, your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth call Miss Caitlyn Albert to the stand.
Oh, do we get to talk about the pictures now? Caitlyn Albert. Okay. And Caitlyn Albert is the older sister of Brian Alberts, but I don't know how old she is. All right, time to update. Caitlyn. Daughter. Direct examination. Oh, thank God we're moving quickly. Things were moving so slow the first couple days. After Caitlyn Albert, that's it for the people that were living in the house. Oh, God, I hope we go to Jen McCabe soon. Or pathologist. Mr. Lally, why would we haven't gone to the pathologist yet? Pathologist.
Step right up in. Just watch your step on me. Step right up. Remain standing and face the clerk.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now here to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may take the stand.
Go ahead, Mr. Lally.
Why is my shirt all wrinkled up?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure. Caitlyn Albert, Caitlyn Albert.
And
Oh,
where
Chloe.
do you live, ma'am?
I live in Easton,
And how long have you lived there?
about 3 years.
With anyone do you live there?
I live with Tristan Morris, my boyfriend.
And you and Miss Morris, about how long have the two of you been dating?
Almost 8 years.
Now, prior to living in Easton, where was it that you lived before that?
I lived in Canton,
And specifically, where in Canton did you live?
34 Fairview Road.
And how long was it that you lived at 34 Fairview Road?
Geez, I lived there from about 2011 to 2021.
And that was a family home, is that right?
Yes.
And who did you live at 34 Fairview Road with?
My mom, my dad, and my 4 siblings.
And your mom's name is Nicole, is that
Who's the other sibling?
right?
Yes.
And your dad or your father's name is Brian Albert?
Oh, that's right. They've got twins. Yeah. Okay, they have twins, and I think they're like the youngest.
Yes.
And how many siblings did you have, I'm sorry?
I have 4.
Are you the oldest?
I am.
And do you work?
I do.
What do you do for work?
I work for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office in the Medicaid Fraud Division.
Oh, Medicaid
And
fraud.
how long have you been doing that?
Almost 3 years, I think. In September, it'll be 3 years.
Now, ma'am, if I could, excuse me, turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that time frame?
I do.
And do you recall what days of the week they were?
I actually am not sure that I recall the exact days of the week. Maybe Friday or Saturday.
Fair to say around the weekend time?
Yeah, weekend, definitely.
I know, right? Tanning beds from Final Destination. Oh.
As far as
I thought about doing tanning bed in high school because like we're all about the tanning craze. But yeah, I watched Final Destination. I was like, nope, ain't trying to get fried and stuck in one.
your family is concerned, the 29th.
So tanning beds are bad for you.
What significance is that day?
That would be my brother's birthday.
And which of your brothers is it whose birthday that was?
Brian Albert Jr.
And is beyond Brian Albert Jr., just for sake of my own lack of confusion, is there some other name that you would call him as far as differentiating him between your brothers?
Little Brian, sometimes, even though he's not so little.
Okay. And so
Goodness, like, what else do you call your brother, Brian? What are these ways of asking
during
questions?
the course of that week, sort of leading up to the weekend, what, if any, discussion did you have with your mother or anybody else in your family in regard to little Brian's birthday?
So leading up to that weekend, I was aware that my brother might have like a friend or two over the house for his birthday. And then I had spoken with my mom and my aunt, Julie Albert, about maybe going to a local Canton bar, grabbing some food and some drinks, and just kind of seeing where the night takes us, and then maybe ultimately going back and seeing my brother for just to say happy birthday, kind of end the night that way.
As the week went along, what, if anything, sort of affected or changed the plan?
What if anything?
Nothing that I can really think of. Nothing really changed. I mean, that was sort of, I don't remember exactly how the plan came about, that we were going to, you know, go get food and that my brother was going to have friends over. But I believe that that was always sort of our plan.
And so specifically on
What, if anything, do you sort of call him? Exactly.
28th, at some point you came to Canton, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall how you came to Canton and where was it that you went first?
So I can't say for sure. From what I remember, I believe that my boyfriend Tristan and I went straight from Easton to the waterfall and actually got there before my mom and my aunt Julie, from what I can remember. And then my mom and Julie ended up meeting us there. And that's when we sort of started just kind of like hanging out, ordering food, some drinks. And we were there for a little bit, just the four of us.
And do you recall about what time it was that you got to the waterfall?
Unfortunately, I can't remember an exact time, but it would have been around like dinner time. So if I had to guess, maybe like 6.
And as far as drinking was concerned with that night, you were at a bar and you weren't driving, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, I was not driving.
And do you recall specifically what kind of drinks you had or what you had to drink that night?
I believe that night I was drinking White Claw, I think.
What
And
flavor?
your boyfriend, Mr. Morris, as far as
Was it apple burp
what, if
flavor?
anything, was going on with him that night as far as how long was he at the water?
Yeah, so we were aware that it was likely going to snow that night. So my boyfriend Tristan had gotten offered to do some like plowing or shoveling. So he knew that he was going to have to probably be up for the majority of the night into the morning doing some shoveling. So he didn't stick around at the waterfall for too long. I think he had some food, maybe like 1 or 2 drinks, and then he actually ended up going home.
And you stayed at the waterfall after he went home?
I stayed there, yeah, with my mom and my Aunt Julie.
And if you recall, as far as that evening at the waterfall, what, if anything, was going on as far as like live entertainment?
I want to say that there might have been a band. I just don't want to say for sure, but I think I do recall a band coming in and setting up, and yeah, I think that there might have been one.
Now, as far as the evening progressed and went on, who, if anyone else, came into the waterfall and sort of joined your group when you were there?
How many frozen
So
donuts?
I can't say for sure like times of people arriving or order of people arriving, but I know at one point my uncle Chris Albert, he ended up joining us. He owns a pizza shop across the street, so when he was done working, he came and joined us. And then my aunt Jen McCabe and her husband Matt McCabe joined us. And then at some point, my father, Brian Albert, and his friend, Brian Higgins, also joined us. So at one point in time, I'm not sure the order of which, everybody came in or the time that they came in, but at some point we were all kind of there hanging out.
Now, and your father and Mr. Higgins, do you know where they had come from or where they were coming from?
Yes, I believe they were coming from New York from a funeral. And I remember I had asked my mom, like, is dad going to stop by? And she was like, I don't know. He's tired. He's coming back from New York. And I was like, oh, I want to see him. So I think I convinced him to come. And then Brian Higgins just kind of tagged along from what I can remember.
Now, as far as Mr. Higgins was concerned, is that someone that you were familiar with prior to this evening on the 28th?
I knew of him and I had met him a couple times, but nothing more than that.
And as far as you're aware, the house that you, for lack of a better term, grew up in or spent some formative years in, had Mr. Higgins ever been over to that house at 34 Fairview when you were there?
Not that I know of.
Why say it like that? House.
Now, at some point later in the evening, who, if anyone else, came and sort of came up to your group or joined you while you were at the wall?
So from what I can remember, I remember sitting at like a high top table, and it was me and my mom sitting next to each other, and we were facing like the front door of the waterfall. And I recall a man and a woman walking in, and at first I didn't know who either of them were, but I noticed that the man started talking to like some of my aunts and uncles that I was with, and he seemed friendly with the people that were in our group. So I had said to my mom, like, oh, who is that? And she said, oh, that's John O'Keefe. And I had known of him because I knew his story about his niece and his nephew and his family. So I had known of him, but had never met him before. And so then I just assumed that the woman that was with him was his significant other, girlfriend, wife. I didn't know. So then, I didn't really speak to either of them. I think at one point, John came up to me and my mom and asked, like, do you guys need anything? Do you need a drink? And we said no, and that was pretty much it.
That's nice.
And so when you say you knew of John O'Keefe and sort of his story as you related, do you recall how it was that you came to know anything about Mr. O'Keefe? Or who was it through that you came to know about Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, in general, it was kind of like a known thing. The tragedy of what happened in the O'Keefe family. And so I had just kind of heard that story. And then on top of that, John O'Keefe's niece is either the same age or around the same age as some of my younger cousins. So I knew that she was friendly with them. I knew that my Aunt Jen McCabe would like help out here and there, going to sports, going to different events, whatever. I know that my Aunt Jen was friendly with John O'Keefe, and I knew that my Aunt Julie and Uncle Chris were somewhat friends with him as well.
And just to be clear, when you're talking about some of your younger cousins, the younger cousins you're speaking of, who are their parents?
So the younger cousins that I'm referring to would be the McCabe girls, and their parents are Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe.
I'm getting very sleepy.
And they were present at the waterfall that evening as well.
Jen and Matt were, yes.
Now, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe and his significant other that you described, had you ever met them prior to that evening?
I had not to my knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised if there was maybe like a sporting event or something where we, met each other in passing, but I had never formally met John or the woman that he was with.
And so on that evening on January 28th, you had never met nor were you aware of anybody by the name of Karen?
No, I was not.
Yeah, she's pretty.
And if you know, about what time was it that they came into the waterfall and came over?
I can't say for sure. I'm not sure of time.
But fair to say, the other people that you testified about, as far as your uncles, your aunts, and things like that, were they all there at the time that Mr. O'Keefe and this group came in?
I believe so. I believe that everyone who was there in the group that I was with was present when John O'Keefe and Karen Reed arrived.
And about what time was it that things started to wind down as far as the waterfall was concerned?
Again, I'm the worst with times, but I would say it was around like 12-ish that we kind of said, let's
Yeah, if I was the O'Keefe family, I would be so lost right now. But I mean, they know of information of things before the trial happened. So maybe they're not lost. Well, I feel like we're fucking lost.
head out and head home. I would say 12-ish, approximately.
Now, during the course of the time that you were at the waterfall, either before or after Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed arrived, how would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor of the group that you were with?
I mean, I didn't notice any issues or any negative.
Listen, if Lolly doesn't talk about her and her relationship with her, with the paramedic that testified, I would be like, what the fuck? If he lets her get grilled by the cross-examination attorney without bringing it up first, oh my lord. Which, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be surprised, because how many times has Lolly, it feels like Lolly has done that to previous witnesses, where it's like, why was this not brought up in direct? Would have been much better.
Of things happening, all
Maybe
the
he learned.
conversation seemed positive, lighthearted. Everyone was just kind of having a good time, getting along. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, really.
So no issues as far as fighting or tension between your group, is that correct?
Correct.
And as far as you saw with regards to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, no issues as far as fighting or tension that you observed between the two of them?
Not that I observed, no.
And when you, around 12-ish or so, when you started to leave, who was it that, how did you come to leave and who did you leave with?
So I left with my mom and my dad. And again, I'm not sure the order of when like everybody else left. But I went with my mom and my dad back to 34 Fairview Road.
And if you recall, who drove home from the waterfall to 34 Fairview?
My dad.
And about how long a drive is that from the waterfall to Fairview Road?
I would say like 5 or 6 minutes, give or take.
And when you arrived to the house at 34 Fairview,
Chiro!
do you recall where your father parked in relation to the house?
From what I can remember, he parked in the driveway. The driveway.
And if you
Sure,
know
went
about
downstairs.
how many other cars were in the driveway and when parked?
I'm not sure. I know there was at least like 1 or 2, but I can't say for sure. I just don't really remember how many were in the driveway at the time. I had like younger siblings in college at the time who would sometimes take some of the cars, so I just don't remember for sure.
And if you know, essentially, within the driveway, there's a garage at the end of the driveway, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's a door on the left, door on the right, is that right?
Yes.
And do you recall whether or not your father pulled in the driveway on the left side or the right side in relation to those doors?
I don't remember.
And when you came into the house, do you remember how it was that you came from the vehicle to the house?
Yes. From what I remember, I went in the front door. So I would have gotten out and walked on the brick path over to the front door area, walked up the steps, and then walked through the door that enters into like a foyer area.
So not the side door?
And just to be clear, sort of when you walk into that front door with the foyer area, what if anything's right in front?
So when I first walked in, I actually had seen my cousin Colin. He was standing in the foyer area. And I remember I said to him, like, oh, hi, what are you doing?
Next question. Not what you said to me.
Taking you back to sort of when you're exiting the waterfall and when you're exiting your parents' vehicle and walking in the house, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather at that point?
I remember at that point, snow was definitely coming down, and I could tell that it was like progressively getting worse.
And so you walk into the home in the front foyer area, that's where you run into your cousin Colin?
Yes.
How is Colin related to you as far as, how is he your cousin?
So Colin is Julie Albert and Chris Albert's son. So he's my first cousin.
Let's ask the same things over and over again.
When you walk in, you sort of bump into him. Where was it that he was?
He told me that he was headed.
Not what he told you. Where was he going?
To my knowledge, he was going home.
Next question. Next question.
From the time that you walked in and bumped into Colin sort of in the foyer of the home, how long was it that he was in the home while you were there?
I would say
No, how long was he in the home when you were there?
minutes.
And from your group, this includes yourself, your mother, your father, is that correct?
Sorry, what was that?
From your group, when you enter the home, that includes you, your mother, and your father. Correct?
Yes.
This kid makes me
And,
hungry. For what?
Who, if anyone else from the waterfall, arrived at your home around the same time as yourself, your mother, and your father?
Sandwiches?
I believe that Brian Higgins was the next to arrive. I think he very shortly after came inside, after myself, my mom and dad.
And so when Mr. Higgins comes into the house at 34 Fairview, are you already in the house?
I was already inside, yes.
And so do you have any idea what Mr. Higgins was driving that evening or where he parked it?
I do not.
And then once you come into the house, when you come into the house, where is it within the home that you go?
So I walked in through the foyer, and then I took a right turn, which leads into like the dining room area. And that's where my brother Brian and two of his friends were just sitting around the dining room table. So I said happy birthday to him and was just kind of hanging out in there for a little bit.
Chocolate
And the
mousse.
friends that you observed in that sort of
Chocolate
kitchen
mouse.
dining area, the friends of your brother Brian, little
Mm-hmm.
brother, what were their names?
Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel.
And were those people that you were familiar with prior to this evening in January 28th?
Yes.
Familiar with them as their friends of your little brother?
Yes, exactly.
And with regard to the house, after yourself, your mother, and your father arrived, and then Mr. Higgins after that, who, if anyone else from the waterfall, came to the house that you saw?
My Aunt Jen and my Uncle Matt McCabe.
And when your Aunt Jen and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived, where was Colin?
Colin had left by then.
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
And when Mr. and Mrs. or your uncle and your Aunt McCabe come in, where is it that they go with them?
I believe they did a similar thing. They either entered through the dining room or through the kitchen area, but the dining room and the kitchen are like open floor, kind of all the same room. So we were just all kind of hanging out in that area.
And if you know about how long a period of time were you at your parents' house on Fairview Road that evening?
I would say an hour 45. Latest,
she left.
Latest 2 hours,
She left
but
with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend picked her up.
around like an hour and a half, an hour 45. Yeah, I can't say for sure. It's an estimate.
And for the balance of the time that you were there, were you in that same sort of kitchen dining room area?
Yes.
And what is it that you were doing as far as you and the group doing in that area of the house?
We were just kind of hanging out. I remember.
You know how the jury went to go look at the house in the daytime? I feel like they need to go during the nighttime. Because remember, they mentioned that there were no street lamps where John's body was found, but were there street lamps across? Were there some in front of the other side of the Albert family home? Because when you're, let's say, for example, assuming maybe some of the people who left the house, when they left the house, maybe they would have driven past John's body. How's the visibility when it's dark?
That my mom had grabbed like a small speaker and put some music on. We had a couple drinks and everyone was just kind of like having a good time, hanging out. We said happy birthday to Brian and that was kind of it.
And Ms. Albert, at any point in time when you were let me ask you this first. As far as the sort of demeanor or mood within the house, similar to how I would ask you at the waterfall, did any of that change once you returned back to your parents' house at Fairview Road?
No.
So everyone getting along, no arguments, no tension, anything you observed?
Correct, yeah.
Now, beyond the people that you just described, did anyone else come into your house, into your parents' house that evening while you were there?
No.
And specifically, Mr. O'Keefe and or his significant other, Ms. Reed, at any point in time while you were there, did they come into your house?
No, neither of them ever came into the home.
Now, with regard to the people that you were describing before, at any point in time, did the people in the kitchen dining room area, any of them leave that area of the house?
I think when we when my mom, my dad, and I first got there, I believe my dad went upstairs to grab the dog to let her out. So he did that, and then I think there was another period of time where my dad might have been showing, or maybe my mom or my dad were showing Brian Higgins like family photos of one of my brothers who's in the Marines. So and that would have been in like the family room area, which still is like there's an open doorway, so it's not like the door was shut or anything. But other than that, we all kind of stayed within that dining room, kitchen vicinity.
Now, with reference to the dog, that was a family dog, is that right?
Yes.
And your family had the dog when you still lived on Fairview Road with your parents?
Yes.
And what was the dog's name?
Chloe.
And with respect to letting the dog out, can you describe to the jury sort of what that process entailed? Was it on a leash, or how would the dog be let out?
Sure. So we had like a fenced-in backyard, and we had a back door. So we would just kind of open the back door, let her out. She would kind of do her thing, and then she would come back in when she was done.
And your father took care of that when you got home from the waterfall that evening?
Yes.
In the family room that you were talking about, where your father and or your mother and Mr. Higgins were, as far as the photographs, where is that in relation to the dining room kitchen area, and specifically, can you see into that area from the dining room kitchen?
Into the family room? Yes. So there's just sort of like it's like a doorway, but there's no door there. It's pretty open. And if you're standing in the dining room or the kitchen, you can see into the family room for the most part.
Now, you at that point were
just
not
like a hallway?
living at the address on Fairview Road, is that right?
Correct.
And as far as the people that were at the house who did not live at the Fairview home on that night, who was the last person to leave?
I was the last person to leave.
And prior to your departure from the house, sometime hour 45 or so after you got there, can you describe the order in which the other people that you just described were there?
Also, when you left the house, did you guys make a left turn or a right turn?
What order did those be?
I don't remember the order in which everybody left, but I do remember that Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, my aunt Jen, and my uncle Matt, they all left in one car, and then Brian Higgins left. But I just don't remember the order in which it was probably within like a couple minutes of each other, but I just don't remember exactly who left first. And then I left pretty shortly after everyone else as well.
Now, during the time that you were hanging out in that dining room kitchen area of the home, at any point in time was your attention drawn to the outside of the house? Did you hear anything, see anything outside the house?
I did not.
And with respect to the front area of the house, at any point in time, was there any discussion that you recall about anything going on in that area?
I don't recall a discussion going on about anything happening out front, except for at one point,
No, let me hear her answer first. Except for what, at one point?
At one point, I remember that Julie Nagel's brother was supposed to pick her up. So I knew that there was some communication where she told him, never mind, you don't need to pick me up. You can go home. I'm going to go home with Jen and Matt.
Now, with respect to your aunt, Jennifer McKay, what, if anything, do you recall her doing do you recall her having a cell phone that night?
I do.
And what, if anything, do you recall her doing with respect to that cell phone?
I remember at one point we were standing in the kitchen, and I had noticed she was on the phone. And I remember she said something to the effect of like, oh.
No, not what she said.
Okay.
So next question.
At some point, did you see her talking on the phone?
I did.
And at some point, did you see her appear to be texting on the phone?
I'm not sure about texting. I definitely saw her speaking with somebody on the phone, though.
And at some point, where did she put her phone in relation to where you guys were in the kitchen and dining room?
I'm not sure.
Recall any sort of charger or anything like that in that area of the home?
I don't.
A charger?
My boyfriend.
And Mr. Morris came to the house on Fairview Road and picked you up at some point, about an hour and 45 minutes or so after you arrived there, is that correct?
Yes.
And I recall what Ms. Morris was driving on that particular.
What car was your boyfriend
I
driving?
remember that he actually was driving my car, which is a 2019 white Jeep Cherokee.
Okay.
And what kind of car did Ms. Morris have at that time? Do you recall?
At that time, he had
Because it seems like a lot of the cars that showed up at the house or left the house, they are all like kind of like they sit higher, so you have like a pretty better, like a better higher view of the road.
a very old, I want to say like 2012 Ford Taurus. So that's why he took my car, because the Taurus wouldn't have been good in the snow.
And how was it that you came? Did he call you, text you? How did you know that he was there?
I believe that we texted, and that's how I was informed that he was out front.
So you receive a text, something to the effect of here, and then you go outside?
Yes.
And when you went outside, if you recall, what was the weather like when you were coming out of the house?
When I walked outside, I remember, again, the snow was coming down a lot. I remember like sort of trying to watch my step because the stairs in the brick path were pretty snowy, and I didn't want to slip. So as far as weather, yeah, I remember it was actively snowing and I was trying not to slip. And that's pretty much what I can remember.
And do you recall where it was that your boyfriend, Mr. Morris, parked the car in relation to the house when he arrived?
I believe he parked in the driveway.
So you would come down the steps, down the walkway to the driveway area, correct?
Yes.
And who drove from Fairview Road to back home that evening?
Tristan did.
Now,
I think everyone said the dog was out unleashed.
When Ms. Morris, I'm assuming, backs out of the driveway, is that correct?
Mhm.
When he backs out of the driveway,
Which
where did the
direction?
vehicle go in relation to the house?
We went up Fairview Road, so
Towards
towards
the flagpole.
the flagpole in our yard.
And so towards
Is
the
it dark?
flagpole with the passenger side facing the house, is that right?
Yes.
And if you recall, as Mr. Morris is driving away from the home, what, if anything, with respect to the weather, did he have to employ within the car?
I remember the windshield wipers were on, and I remember he was driving very cautiously 10 and 2. And I remember thinking to myself, the snow is coming down pretty hard.
And as you drove past the house, were you looking outside or looking at the house or the front lawn area of the home?
I was not. Once I got inside the car, my attention was on him, and we were having a conversation, so I hadn't been looking out the passenger window towards my house at really any point.
So your head was turned towards your boyfriend who's driving the car to the left of you as he's driving away from you.
Yes.
Oh, you have an eye booger though. Hold on.
Yeah, one moment, Leon.
Yes.
I don't know. What is the state doing? Here, Shiru. I'm so glad I'm not the jury. It would drive me nuts to not be able to talk about this case with anyone.
Nothing further wrong.
Mr. Netti?
Clean your eyes, baby. Hey, clean your eye boogers.
Good afternoon.
So, Ms. Albert, you were
No, calm.
at your parents' home on January 29th by midnight or shortly thereafter, correct?
Correct.
And you were the last one to leave at 1:45, 2 o'clock, somewhere in that area?
Yes.
So cute.
On January 29th of 2022, after you got up that day, did you receive a call, a text, any sort of communication from any investigator connected with this case?
I did not.
Trooper Proctor did not contact you on January 29th?
No,
He did not interview you on January 29th?
he did not.
What about January 30th,
No.
31st?
Nope.
How about the entire month of February? Did you hear from Trooper Proctor wherein he set up a meeting or an interview with you?
I did not.
Then what about the entire rest of 2022?
Objection, Your
Did
Honor.
Trooper Proctor interview you during that entire year?
What happened to the
So the
objection?
objection's overruled. You can answer that.
I was not interviewed. No.
No. And then in 2023, prior to May of 2023, were you contacted by Trooper Proctor or any investigator for an interview regarding what you just testified to here today?
I don't think so.
And you hadn't met Mr. Lally by May?
Mr. Lally, are you gonna call Trooper Proctor on the stand? Bring him up, please.
Of 2023 either, correct?
I don't think so.
But in May of 2023,
you actually were called to testify at another hearing where neither the Commonwealth or the defense in this case was present, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Lally and Ms. McLaughlin were not there, and certainly no members of the defense team were there, correct?
Correct.
And May of 2023 was well over a year after the events that you were called to testify about, correct?
Correct.
Right? So if these events happened on January 28th and 29th of 2022, the end of January of 2023 would have been a year, and now you're being asked for the first time to give testimony about what happened back in January of 2022 in May of 2023, correct?
Yes.
And then it was only after you testified before that other proceeding without the prosecution and the defense of this case there that Trooper Proctor finally interviewed you in August of 2023, correct?
That's correct.
And that was 4 months after you testified in that other hearing of May of 2023, correct? June, July, I'm sorry.
What? Wait, Proctor interviewed her for the first time after she testified?
3 months, June, July, August, correct?
Correct.
And it was about a year and a half after January 29th of 2022, correct?
I believe so.
All right. Now,
Did I hear that
on
right?
direct examination, Mr. Lally had asked you about whether you knew Brian Higgins. Do you remember that line of questioning?
I do.
And I believe you testified that you knew of Higgins, correct?
Yes.
And you thought that you had met him a couple of times, correct?
Yes.
So Brian Higgins, you would classify as an acquaintance, correct?
To me?
Yes.
I would classify him as a friend of my father's, not really an acquaintance or friend of mine.
Okay. So he didn't rise to the level of an acquaintance, somebody who you met, but you didn't really know.
I'm not really sure how I would categorize my relationship with him. Again, it was just more of like, he was my father's friend. If I had seen him walking down the street, I would have said hello to him. I don't know anything about his personal life. I don't communicate with him regularly. So
yuck, I have a splinter. Hold on a second. Let me get a thing real quick. Hi, Wayne. How are you? Ew, it's like a splinter shoved up my nail. Ugh. How did I miss this?
I mean, if that's what you would consider an acquaintance, then yes.
I guess I would ask, what do you consider an acquaintance? How would you define that term?
I would say an acquaintance is someone who you are friendly with and might see from time to time. I guess in my head, I'm just sort of thinking someone who's in closer in age with me. I usually think of it as more of like a friend type thing and not my father's friend to me. I guess that's just the way I think of it in my head.
Okay, so is your testimony before this jury that an acquaintance is really a friend?
Someone that you're friendly with, perhaps.
I would consider that.
Could be.
Okay.
But the age gap is
Have
too.
you watched any of the testimony in this case prior to your taking the stand today?
I have not.
Has anybody told you anything about any of the testimony that has occurred prior to your taking the stand today?
No.
Okay. Who is Katie McLaughlin?
Oh, that's
Katie
right.
McLaughlin.
Wait, the state didn't talk about Caitlyn McLaughlin or whatever her fucking name is. Katie McLaughlin? Oh, state, why did you do this to her? Why not bring it up on the stand just to get ahead of it?
Is a girl who I'm the same age.
Is a girl who's oh god. What did McLaughlin say again when she was asked about her? Caitlyn is a person that I went to high school with. No, what did she say again? No, she said something where it sounded like she was like distancing herself from this girl.
As we went to high school together, we graduated the same year, and we have a couple mutual friends. We interact with some of the same people socially. I can't think of a time, possibly ever, where her and I ever hung out one-on-one or individually. So more of like a friend of a mutual friend.
Okay. So, Kate, you would not consider Katie McLaughlin to be a friend?
She's not a close personal friend of mine.
Bye, Rain.
A close personal friend.
Objection.
Just let her finish her answer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your answer.
I would not consider her one of my, again, close friends.
All right. So let's get back to my question. Would you consider her to be a friend?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Hey, Doris, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Oh, yes. Stand up and stretch. Let's go. Wait, I'm confused. Who's leaving? Who's staying? Is Rain leaving or is Wayne leaving? Wayne just got here, right? Oh, wait. Did Rain? I think Rain was trolling us. Oh, Wayne says hi, y'all. Rain says bye. And then people thought Rain was leaving. Including me. Oh, why did the state not get ahead of this? Why? Facebook friend. I mean, I think there could be a good explanation. It could just be like, yeah, you know, we have pictures together. We're in the same like social circles, but I'm not really friends with her. Right? Sometimes when you hang out with people, you're with like a large group of friends, and it doesn't mean that you're close with everyone or you're tight with everyone. Ugh. Snapchat friend. Snapchat friend might be that might be a different type of friend. That might be like a friends with benefit. Who's the lunatic? How's your day going, Wayne? Hi, Amon. Let's go back to the witness list. Okay. No, it's loading again. I don't know. This website hates me. This website does not like me. Oh, let me change this. Cross examination. Sorry, I'm falling asleep over here. I thought the Caitlyn Albert examination or testimony would be more exciting. It's whatever's. Okay, so who do we look forward to? We look forward to hearing from Jen McCabe, who was with Karen Reed when John was found, and Carrie Roberts, who was also with Jen McCabe and Karen Reed. Who else is there? Man, I don't know how people can sit on those benches for that long. I wouldn't be able to be in the courtroom. It's like, it looks, I don't know, very uncomfortable. I would have issues with my back, my butt, my shoulders, and all that. Okay, so Caitlyn Albert, daughter cross-examination. Let me pin this message. You had Wi-Fi problems all night? Why are you stealing internet from McDonald's? Hello, Cakes. How are you doing today? How's it going? How are you? You can't with this lady? I mean, Caitlin's been fine in the stand so far. I have no issues with her. She's been fine. She's asking the questions as they're coming, but I don't know. I'm not really getting anything answered. Like the dying questions that we have, they're not really getting answered. Good, but I should be on my last shift now. I blagged out. I made an excuse to finish early because I can't be arsed. Lol. Oh, Karen Reed's parents right here. Mr. and Mrs. Reed. Does she have a sister? Does she have any siblings?
Ms. Albert, you know Courtney Proctor, correct?
I know of her, yes.
And you've been in her company several times, correct?
Yes.
Oh, did the defense lose that one and they're not about to go more details about the paramedic McLaughlin?
Her children, correct?
Once, yes.
And you know she is Michael Proctor's sister, correct?
Yes.
When Michael Proctor ultimately interviewed you in August of 2023, did he ever ask you how well you knew his sister, Courtney Proctor? Did that subject ever come up?
Not that I remember.
And did you ever mention it to him that you had met his sister and met his sister's kids?
I did not.
Now, on January 28th of 2022, you went to the waterfall with your boyfriend, Tristan Morris, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, he left and you stayed, correct?
Yes.
The reason that you stayed is you wanted to go back to 34 Fairview, your old home, to be there by midnight when your brother was turning 23, correct?
Not necessarily. My plan was always to stay and just spend some time with my mom and my aunt. But Tristan left very early because he knew that he was going to have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning shoveling or plowing. So my plan was never to go back with him. But it wasn't necessarily because it was my brother's birthday. It was just what my plan was for the night.
Certainly the fact that it was your brother's birthday didn't deter you from going back, right? In other words, the fact that it was your brother's birthday didn't cause you to hesitate to go back. You wanted to be there, right?
Well, my brother Brian wasn't at the waterfall.
No, I'm talking about, let's start over. Tristan left, right?
Yes.
You stayed at the waterfall.
Yes.
And you planned to go back to 34 Fairview, did you not?
At some point in time, that was spoken about, and I agreed to go back to 34 Fairview, yes.
Okay. And you went back there to see your family, correct?
Yes.
Including your brother Brian, whose birthday it was, correct?
Yes.
That was your parents' home, right?
Yes.
You grew up there.
Yes.
You were comfortable there.
Yes.
Where are we going with
Plenty
this?
of room at the house, correct?
In what sense?
Bunch of bedrooms.
Yes.
Oh, is he like questioning why she decided to leave the house and get picked up by her boyfriend?
Not all of them were taken up, correct?
At that time, correct.
You certainly felt welcome there, correct?
Yes.
And there was no problem with you staying there overnight, correct?
Correct.
And when you made the decision to go there after the waterfall, you knew that there was a snowstorm that was starting, correct?
Yes.
And you've already testified that when you went back to 34 Fairview,
She does sound a bit defensive now. She seems like she's trying to figure out where the attorney is trying to go before she answers. Yes. I mean, that's a common theme when you're being cross-examined. Because you want to make sure you're not being tricked into saying something that you don't really mean, or you don't want to say yes to something small, hoping that it doesn't lead to something bigger.
you saw your cousin
Or like it'll contradict them later, I guess.
Caitlyn Albert inside the home, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you walked in and he was one of the first people that you saw, correct?
Correct.
Oh, can you put like the little tick necklace on him? There's like this like necklace band that you can put on pets. But I don't know if the cat's going to let you keep it on him. You might be like, get the shit off me. I don't want this.
He's been over your house many times, correct?
Correct.
Just got to
You're
yank it
close
really
with
quick.
him as your first cousin, are you not?
I am.
And your brother Brian Jr. is close with him as well, correct?
Yes.
Colin Albert is close with your parents, correct?
Yes.
He's certainly welcome at your parents' home, correct?
Correct.
And it was certainly not shocking to see your first cousin, Colin Albert, at your home, correct?
Correct.
And you had a brief interaction with him, correct?
Yes.
That was sort of toward the foyer of the house?
Yes.
And then you continued deeper into your parents' home and you saw other people there, correct?
Yes.
Where did you go within the home after you had seen Colin?
I believe I entered through the foyer into the dining room area.
And when you were there, you saw your brother Brian, whose birthday.
Wait, really? Those tick necklaces, they smell? Oh, I've never gotten one before. We have like the flea and tick medication that we used to put on our pets, like on their back. But then now we just give Cheryl the oral medication. It's like tick, fleas, heartworm, and some trifecta thing. Right, Shiro? Ain't that right, Shiro? He's not paying attention to me.
Birthday it was, correct?
Yes.
He had two friends with him, Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, in that same area.
Yes.
You greeted them as well.
Yes.
And that's where your attention was focused, fair to say?
Hi, good guy. What's up? What's up?
I would say that once I said hello to them, I didn't just sit with them three. I sort of was walking around. I wouldn't say my attention was solely focused on them three, but I did greet them, yes.
And where you were walking around within the kitchen dining room area?
Yes.
And once you greeted Colin and left him, it's fair to say that you then were not looking over your shoulder monitoring what Colin was doing or where he was going, correct?
Correct.
And while you were in the kitchen dining room area, the door to the basement was kind of blocked from your view, was it not?
I have to pee
If
now.
I'm in the dining room area, there is a spot in there where I could see it, but I don't believe I could see the basement door, no.
Right. And from your vantage point, the door to the basement's kind of blocked from the area that you were in.
For the most part, yes.
And you weren't watching Colin to see where he went after you left him, correct?
Correct.
And you never saw him leave the house physically, correct?
Correct.
This may be a good time to pause. I don't know, are we going past 4?
All right, we'll pause then, thank you. All right, Ms. Albert, we'll bring you back tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to stay here and just let the jurors file out in person and follow them.
All right,
Jurors,
thank you.
those same 3
Fine,
questions. Please come.
I don't know. And then also like the accusation of like having everyone cover Colin's butt. I feel like if they were getting together, they would want to have like a more refined story. Like, oh yeah, we all saw Colin leave. We all said goodbye to him, hugs and kisses, and he left. But it seems like the family members were like, yeah, we know he like left within the first 5-10 minutes of us getting there, but then no one really saw him leave. I feel like you would have that solidified. I don't know. We're just all over the place. Tick Nicholas supposed to last at least 6 months, so I say, why not try it? What did it smell like? Also, I can't wait to take a nap. Oh my God, I hate naps, but I'm definitely taking a nap. I'm so fucking tired. Or maybe today was just a kind of like, after the cross-examination of Brian Albert, it just got.
Discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or
anything
investigation
naughty.
into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Tomorrow's a half day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow's a half day! Yay! Oh man, I wish I knew who was going tomorrow. Who's testifying tomorrow? Who we calling on the stand tomorrow?
Follow them out? Okay, thank you. Yes.
All right, y'all. I don't even... So we recap Brian Albert, but I mean, is there really much to say
All right,
about
so
the
Ms.
Albert
Giannetti,
kids?
why don't you tell me now what it is you hope to do tomorrow and basis for it?
Right, so my plan, Your Honor, is based on the fact that Katie McLaughlin, when she testified, tried to minimize her relationship with Caitlyn Albert. The reason why that's relevant is that we have proof that she has changed her story after she learned that 34 Fairview was the Albert family home.
Okay.
She was on record with Trooper Proctor stating that, this is Katie McLaughlin, stating that what she heard my client say, she actually overheard. She heard my client addressing Jennifer McCabe on scene in a hysterical manner saying, allegedly, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And that evolved in this case to a multi-part conversation with many different people, including starting with Katie McLaughlin saying, was there any trauma? And my client supposedly responded, I hit him. And then a police officer jumps in and asks another question, and my client supposedly said, I hit him. And there were like 4 different times where my client was responding to others so that it wasn't really this burst of excitement and an excited utterance. She tried to cast it as statements that were made upon reflection, making them sound more ominous and more inculpatory than what they were, particularly because the person to whom my client was speaking, who was no friend of my client, reported that she...
I don't know. I feel like the level of like omnimity, is that a fucking word? I'm trying to say like ominousness. Ominous. I feel like it's the same. Whether or not she said it out of like just like bursting confession or whether or not she was saying it to someone else in response to a question.
She said, did I hit him? Could I hit him? So we have a clear conflict in the testimony. We have a witness who has admitted that her statement has evolved, and she's admitted that her statement evolved after she learned the identity of the house that she was at, which happens to be the house that Caitlyn Albert grew up in. When she was confronted with, who is Caitlyn Albert, when Jackson asked Katie McLaughlin who Caitlyn Albert was, there was a long pause, and then she was and then even the way she phrased it was, I think, telling. I went to school with somebody by
That's what she said. Yeah, I went to school with someone named Caitlyn Albert.
that name. It was something to that effect. It just sounded ridiculous. It sounded like it was somebody that she's trying to remember.
But I don't know if she paused that long, though. Did she pause that long? I don't remember.
At that point, we had 4 photos that we marked for ID, H, I, J, and K.
Pictures.
Where we have them together. We have them being Facebook friends. We have a nature of the relationship that she tried to conceal in our view. Since that time, we've been deluged by other photos of the two of them together, including one, intimate photo of them, the 4 of them. I'm sorry, when I say the 4 of them, I mean Caitlyn Albert, her 2 college roommates, and the only person who's not a college roommate in that photo is Katie McLaughlin. Katie McLaughlin also said that she never went on anything other than occasional day trips with Caitlyn Albert. We now know that that's false. We have them together in a hot tub drinking in a photo that is from Maine, which is about a 4-hour drive away.
When is
That
that?
was, it was posted in 2016, which is about.
But when did it occur? Did it occur in 2016, or was it posted in 2016?
It was posted in 2016. I think the information that's when it was a new photo that was uploaded. So I mean, that location was tagged on 2016, so we know it was after high school, which again contradicts Katie McLaughlin's testimony because she made it seem like this was just some girl that I knew in high school, and then we happened to be at the same places at various times, but I'm not close with her, despite the fact that I have my arm around her in most of the photos. The other aspect of this,
I want to see the pictures.
Your Honor, is that she said that she had not, Katie McLaughlin testified she had not seen Caitlyn Albert for, I think, 2 or 3 years prior
I remember that.
to January of 2022.
But
we have
baby shower?
a baby shower photo that is from June of 2021. They are standing next to each other.
Do you have someone to authenticate that date?
Caitlyn Albert will authenticate that date.
Oh, will she authenticate the date? Oh, did they get it from her Facebook?
Why are you sure of that?
She's going to be shown a baby shower, which occurred in 2021.
Okay.
That's when it's timestamped on social media. And Caitlyn Albert, her face and her body are in that photo. Katie McLaughlin's face and body are in that photo.
How many other people are in that photo?
I think there are 6. I have the photo. Give it back to Mr. McDermott. The one's for ID. Oh, thank you.
Or actually, if I can just see those, I thought these were different photos. If I could have those, then you don't need to count the people.
There are 5 other people in the photo.
That'll be easier.
But they're together on the right side of the photo. These photos impeach the testimony of Katie McLaughlin multiple times, and we should be allowed to explore the bias of these witnesses, particularly the bias of Katie McLaughlin, who purports to give incriminating testimony against my client, brand new testimony that only existed after she learned the identity of the homeowners in this case. This is classic bias and classic impeachment evidence. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to show photographic evidence of this relationship, much like Mr. Lally shown photographs.
I mean, there's bias. Yes, like there could be bias, but to lie and cover up for someone that you're friends with but not close friends with, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Because I feel like people don't really want to risk themselves for other fucking people unless it's like family and you're like super close to them. But like friends, like unless there's a stake in it involved where like unless she had a stake in it involved where she was also involved in it as well and she's willing to lie for a friend because she doesn't want to get her ass revealed.
Evidence of the 34 Fairview, what it looks like. It's intended to assist the jury. And in doing a 403 balancing test, Your Honor,
I heard it wasn't today. It was like was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Yeah, I heard someone punched him in New York, and they actually have like a picture that they put out in the press to try to identify the person.
The nature of this evidence greatly outweighs any prejudice. She's able to explain these photos any way she wants when Mr. Lally does his redirect examination of her. But without being able to get into this, Your Honor, Katie McLaughlin's testimony, it's like she's wearing a suit of armor. We can't get through it. We have the tools and the evidence to get through it. We have the ability to expose her as somebody that's misrepresented something very important to this court. If we can't ask these questions and we can't get any of these photos, then we're not able to do it.
All right, Mr. Lally, what do you say?
Your Honor, just as far as the authenticity of whatever these is, as far as social media is concerned, there's a variety of ways to fabricate that. And I think it's interesting that Ms. Giannetti is really vague about where these photos came from or how he knows the specifics that he's so sure about when they occurred, where they occurred, what state people were in, what day it was, who is college roommates of who within these photographs, but has no specifics about, where these deluge of photographs came from. More importantly, Your Honor, what I would submit as far as Ms. McLaughlin is concerned is she was entirely consistent, and I did the disparagement as far as what her testimony has been, as far as her statement within the report to Trooper Proctor, her grand jury testimony in this case, and her testimony before this jury on the stand were identical, if not entirely consistent. And again, it's not just Ms. McLaughlin that is attributing this statement to the defendant. The jury has heard from 2 other firefighters, as well as anticipated other witnesses who will testify to these exact same statements that the defendant made outside of the home on that date.
Maybe Kara Roberts.
What counsel, I think, is referring to as far as the could I have hit him is something that the defendant said to Ms. McCabe, which was overheard by Ms. Roberts on a speakerphone on the way to Fairview Road. And then she modifies that statement when she's asked specifically to Ms. McCabe as far as the could I have hit him is something that the defendant said to Ms. McCabe, which was overheard by Ms. Roberts on a speakerphone on the way to Fairview Road. And then she modifies that statement when she's asked specifically about the bruising and how that could have been caused. And it's at that point where she repeats, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So to then use prior statements to a completely separate witness that have nothing to do with Ms. McLaughlin to try to use that to claim impeachment or bias is ridiculous. And then as far as it applies to this specific witness, when it comes to impeachment and bias, what the case law is very clear about is if it goes to bias of the witness who is on the stand. And the witness in this case is Ms. Albert, not Ms. McLaughlin.
All right. Thank you. This will save us some time tomorrow.
Well, I think they tried to bring it up after Katie testified, but the judge was like, "Okay, well, let's wait until Caitlyn testifies, and we'll bring it up then," because I guess they're going to ask Caitlyn about the relationship with Katie McLaughlin.
Right. Well, the only other thing I was going to add, Your Honor, is Mr. Valley's arguments go to the weight, not the admissibility. But I pulled up my notes, which I'm sure the court has. She has morphed her statement into, I asked if there had been any significant trauma. She said, I hit him. Then she repeated it. A woman said, you're hysterical, you need to calm down. She said, I hit him. Then a police officer said, what did you say? She repeated, I hit him. And, you know, Ms. McCabe herself testified in the grand jury, that's not what happened. That she said at that moment, did I hit him, could I hit him? She's on record saying it.
All right, thank you. I'll take a look at my notes and we'll figure this out first thing in the morning.
All rise.
Oh my god, yeah, that motherfucker looks scary. What did he get? Attempted murder, right? All right, guys, that's it for the court date today. So tomorrow we'll continue with the cross-examination of Caitlyn Albert. We'll maybe see those pictures, maybe not. It seems like the judge didn't really make her ruling then. And I guess they'll continue the rest of the arguments tomorrow morning? Question mark? And then, oh boy, who are we hoping to hear from after Caitlyn Albert goes? I would love to just go straight to the pathologist, but I feel like we're going to go through all the friends and the family members, and then maybe we'll get to pathologists. Maybe the defense, or maybe the state was hoping to build a good, solid story before the pathologist went up there and testified to the injuries. But I mean, I think, I don't know, I'm just like...
That device that the phone call was made from, the 911.
Not the Chad. Not the Chad. Okay, yeah. Oh, let me turn off Chad. By Chad. All right, so what do we get so far with the Albert kids? I don't know. Not much. They didn't really answer any of the dying questions I had. It seems like Brian Albert Jr., the son, was 23 at the time. He looked out the window. His friend was getting picked up by her brother, and she noticed a dark SUV that was by the mailbox. And at some point, he looked out the window again. That dark SUV moved up towards where the flagpole is, assuming to be Karen Reed and John in the car. And then Colin left shortly after the parents arrived. Didn't hear anything. Not really too much. Oh, the interesting thing was he didn't get formally interviewed until 18 months later by Trooper Proctor and another trooper. But like 18 months later, yikes. For Caitlyn Albert, I think same thing. Wasn't formally. I don't have a lot of notes with Caitlyn Albert, to be honest. First time she testified was in May 2023, so about almost a year and a half after John O'Keefe was found in front of her house. But she wasn't interviewed until 4 months after her testimony. I don't know. And then she said she never really saw Colin leave. All right. Yeah, can you see him? He's not naked. He's got clothes on. He just has no panties. He likes to go commando. That's just the type of person Gandalf is. Or type of wizard Gandalf is. Oh. Yeah, I mean, I want to hear about the injuries. Like, I'm familiar with, dog bites, dog scratches, but I'm not an expert on it. But I've never really seen anyone get hit by a car. So that I don't know what the fuck it looks like. Or if like a martini glass was like smashed in your face or in your arm. Are there glass fragments there? Were there any pet hair? Were there any pet saliva? You think all of Trooper Proctor's cases should be reinvestigated? Yeah, that's gonna open a whole can of worms. All right, y'all. Well, I don't know. If there's anything else you guys want to discuss? Any other questions or anything? Where are we at? Are we all confused? I'm still confused. I'm still very confused. And I keep thinking like, oh my God, this witness is going to clarify some stuff for me. No, not really. It just gets more and more confusing. And then I have more and more questions, like with the Albert mom and dad. I'm like, okay, cell phone records. Hello. What was going on there? Did y'all pick up the phone or not? People are saying that the defense is saying that you guys answered the phone and that there was a call that lasted 10, 20, 30 seconds, whatever the fuck it is. And they're like, no, we never answered it. I don't know why it says that. So I don't know. I want to know what it looks like. Like, what are the defense looking at? Oh, and it's not like the state does any better job to clear it up, Where was her first testimony from? Maybe that was like the first grand jury after Karen Reed was... Wait, actually, wasn't Karen Reed arrested a couple days later? Because I'm assuming the first grand jury may have happened in May 2022, right? Was it May 2022? And then I think there's a second one that didn't include the Commonwealth. I think that was in June of 2023. I wonder if that was like the federal investigation stuff. I'm not quite sure. But they were very vague about the second one. Oh boy. All right. Well,
120.
Go away. Oh wait, I have the witness list up now. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at this before I disappear. Who have we heard from so far? Trooper Proctor. Have not heard from him. Oh, this name right here, Bukake. Have not heard from Bukake yet. We haven't heard from any troopers yet, I don't think. We've heard of some of these officers. Sarah, if I recognize, I think Mulaney, Good, Lank, Gallagher, Ray, I recognize. I think Kevin, I recognize. I don't remember. Oh, these are the rest of the troopers. I don't recognize them. I don't think they went. Gallerano, I don't recognize. These other troopers don't recognize. The captain, don't recognize. Civilian witnesses. Heather Maxon, no idea who that is. Anthony Flametti. Oh, are these, finally. Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Oh, we have 2 experts on that? Yes. Can we not? Why didn't we call them after law enforcement and paramedic? We heard from Nuttall. Yeah, so this is the fire department. We heard from Walsh, I think, Kelly, Woodbury, McLaughlin, Becker. I don't remember. Okay, so here's what we got from the McCabe family. So we have Jennifer McCabe. Can't wait to hear from her. Her husband. Do we need to hear from her husband? Do we need to hear from her daughter? Carrie Roberts, I want to hear. Kurt Roberts. I think he testified already, right? Kurt Roberts? Did he testify? I don't know why. I feel like, did he testify? Paul O'Keefe, Aaron O'Keefe. We heard from them. Juvenile with initials KF and PF. Oh, are these John O'Keefe's niece and nephew, maybe? We heard from Cameranos. Brian Higgins, have not heard from him yet. Oh, he's in Sandwich. Albert's heard of. Don't know who this is. Oh, UC Davis Veterinary Lab. Is that going to be an expert who's going to testify about bite marks and scratches? Or did they use UC Davis Veterinary Lab to rehome the dog or something? I don't know. Julie Albert, heard from her. Chris Albert, heard from her. Colin Albert, have not heard from him, but we look forward to that. Ryan Nagel, apparently the defense said that he has testimony that will show that that Karen Reed is innocent. Tristan Morris, oh, that's Caitlyn Albert's boyfriend. I don't think we need to hear from Tristan Morris, do we? I don't know. There are some witnesses where I'm like, do we really need to hear from them? All right, Police Crime Lab. Can't wait to hear from the Police Crime Lab and what they thought about the red cups in the baggie. All right, defense witness list. Let's look through the defense witness list. So we have Brian, Caitlyn, all the Alberts. We know that. I don't know who some of these people are. Some police department. Curran, I don't know who that family, I don't know who those family members are. I don't recognize Colaquithas, they already went. UC Davis Veterinary Lab, I think they were on the state's witness list. Elizabeth Proctor, is that Trooper Proctor's wife? Oh, Lopalato, I don't know if they're going to testify. They're the ones that were trying to file a police report on the Albert family. Courtney Proctor, oh no, I think Courtney Proctor is the Albert wife, right? Or the sister? Shit, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I did want to watch the Ruby Frankie police search video. I'm so tired, though. Maybe tomorrow, since we have a half day. Maybe tomorrow. So I think tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to watch it live tomorrow, honestly. I don't know if I don't know. Should I watch it live tomorrow? Maybe. I'll think about watching it live tomorrow. I wish I knew who was going exactly. The reason why I want to watch today live is because I wanted to see the cross-examination of Brian Albert. But tomorrow, I mean, right now we're in the middle of Caitlyn Albert's cross-examination. I'm just kind of like, whatever. But it depends on who goes after her. So I don't know. Maybe we'll do it live tomorrow. Maybe not. We'll see. But other than that, yeah, maybe if when I stream tomorrow, maybe we'll watch the Ruby Frankie police search video. Do you know how long it is? The police search video? I think they went in there pretty quickly, right? I know that within less than 5 minutes, they determined there were no children in the house. But then they spent some time just kind of like looking around the area and just checking it out to see if there's like anything else that they should look into while they're searching the house. Yeah, so that footage was released about a week ago. Check out the movie Best in Show. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. Good day for watching Corgi. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you guys missed the cross-examination of Caitlyn Albert, I'll have that posted on the YouTube channel. Other than that, I'm gonna end my stream. Hello, Palermo. How's it going? I'm gonna end my stream, but it was nice hanging out with y'all. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Feel free to join the Discord. Discord with a true crime section. Feel free to discuss anything about this case or any other true crime stuff or any cases you want me to take a look at. I was actually in the middle of looking at the Mika Miller case. I was watching this video about that because I keep hearing it. There's corgis in there. Oh, cute. Just because they're on the wrongs list doesn't mean they'll be called. Yeah, just because they're on the witness list doesn't mean they'll call you. Your name will be on there, but you know they might not. They might get to you. They might not. Right? You just gotta wait. All right, y'all. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Thanks for hitting